So there's actually a really large interconnected network of laws that one has to, if you're engaging in any landscape, whether it's forests or the coast, there is this interconnectedness. And so when you're looking at changes in legislation and amendments, it might seem like it's not relevant to you to pay attention to maybe a change in the Coast Guard Act or a change in the Land Acquisition Act because we're talking about fisheries. But actually, because these legislations speak to each other, it's really important. Now, I put conflict resolution there because the NGT is essentially, you can change how the NGT functions by an amendment in law. And so it's really important that we pay attention to any changes there because it'll affect everything, right? If the NGT has now become the primary legal sort of conflict resolution space for many movements. And so this, I'm not going to go through this list of laws. It's a very long list of laws. This is just to give you that sense that that's why it's important that, when we're talking about fisheries and we're paying attention to things, we don't just pay attention to things that have the word fisheries in them or a particular type of fishing in them. We have to pay attention to a lot of different legislations that might not obviously seem on the surface connected to fisheries or fisher rights. So getting to what we're actually here to talk about. So my goal is to provide a very bird's eye perspective of how some of these legislations have evolved and where we've, started from. So we started actually way before independence with the Indian Fisheries Act. Which essentially very simply, told you not to do certain things like you can't poison the waters. It's a very simple sort of legislation. And from that, we came to the Marine Fishing Regulation Model Bill, or the MFRA, which might be an abbreviation that some of you are familiar with. But the MFRA, in the sense of Marine Fishing Regulation Act, in a generality, was not actually what happened. What happened is there was a bill. And like I said, a bill is a proposed legislation, right? So there was a bill, and then the bill was sent to all the different states. And then the state legislatures looked at this bill and they came up with their own state laws. So you have the Tamil Nadu Marine Fishing Regulation Act, the Goa Marine Fishing Regulation Act, and so on and so forth. You don't have a national marine fishing regulation act, right? Because it was this bill that got passed around. And so what these marine fishing regulation acts essentially do, and all of them vary in the detail, but in general, what they do is they set up exclusive areas where mechanized boats cannot operate, which are meant to be for traditional fishing craft. They have gear or mesh size regulations in them. And they were passed from 1980. Goa and Kerala were the two states who passed laws in 1980, all the way up to 2003, right? So there's a lot of time between every state passing this, the MFRAs. The 2003 was Gujarat, I think, and the Andaman Islands passed it only in 2003, which is not that long ago, if you think about it. And so this is what this is in general what this state has. Now, how much area is set aside, what the specific gear regulations are, which net can you use? You'll have to look at that specific state's legislation to figure out what applies. There is no one size kind of fits all here. Then the next thing that we saw is the Maritime Zones of India Act and rules. So the act was in 1981 and the rules came in 82. And again, if you remember, act passed by parliament, rules passed by a ministry or a particular authority, right? So, and essentially what this was to control the fishing by foreign vessels in the exclusive economic, like within India's sort of maritime zone. And basically it allowed for joint ventures to happen. It allowed for bilateral, multilateral sort of fishing access agreements. And that was, broadly what this act dealt with. Then we have the new deep sea fishing policy in 1991. Now, deep sea is something we're talking a lot about now, but we have to realize that this is a topic that has been coming up over and over again. It comes up, we suppress it, it comes up again. So it's something that the government has been fascinated by for a while. And essentially, the new deep sea fishing policy of 91, it talked about leasing out to foreign vessels the right to fish within the Indian EEZ. So that's the area beyond the territorial waters. You'd have heard about that, I'm guessing, yesterday, 12 nautical miles to 200. Leasing out, giving a fishing licenses essentially to foreign vessels, joint ventures between Indian companies and foreign companies. Sorry, not leasing. It's basically for Indians to lease foreign vessels and use them to fish. It's not for foreigners to fish in India. For foreigners to fish in India, they had to have an agreement with an Indian. So foreigners were 49% and the Indian company had to own 51%. Makes us feel better that, we've got a 2% ahead of the foreigners in the equation. So joint ventures and for Indians to use foreign vessels to fish. And that's, I'm not going into details. Okay, so that's essentially what the deep sea fishing policy was. And it'll sound really familiar because like I said, a lot of these things come and go. Then we have the marine fishing policy, which again, I'm not going to talk about, but essentially it's a policy. So it's not a legislation. It's, in a way, it sets the tone for legislations. That's essentially what policies are. They give you a sense of, what are our values about this thing? What are our ideas? What are our intentions? You get a sense of that from policy, but you can't take someone to court saying that, oh, they did something that was against a policy, versus if they did something against a notification or an act. Right, so that's what you have to remember when you keep hearing the word policy. The other thing to sort of mention here, it's not a legislation, but this is quite an important, I guess, landmark in fisheries governance is the Murari Committee. It was set up in 1995. Sort of after this deep sea fishing policy came, there were a lot of protests. It might have come up in the previous talk. I don't know about fisher movements and how they've struggled against legislations. If they have, someone just tell me to skip and not talk about this. Okay, I don't want to keep repeating points that have already been said. But essentially, the Murari Committee kind of met all the states, and they came out with a number of recommendations, which included canceling this foreign joint venture. Sorry. Hello? Yeah.
We have already dealt.
Delta. Okay.
Murari
Committee. Great. LOP.
I will also be talking on policy. The next session also.
You'll be talking about Murari Committee?
Murari Committee and policy.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm not. I know. I'm not talking about the fishing policy because I know you're going to talk about it. But if you're talking about the committee, then I'll skip that. The letter of permit, is that something that y'all are familiar with? Is that something that's already been discussed? The LOP scheme?
No, you can.
Okay. So the basically what you should know is the Murari Committee essentially said we don't want these leasing out of foreign vessels because there's a lot of loopholes with that. So they were against that. And so then the government brought out this LOP scheme, which allowed people to get a fishing license. And it was just the same thing. It just meant that you now bought this fishing license. You weren't allowed to do joint ventures anymore. It had to be Indian boats, but it just meant that people came, they set up a shell company in India, they paid this license, they fished whatever they wanted and they left, right? So India didn't see any of the revenue from fishing. They had no idea how much was being fished. Neither were Indian fishermen getting access to these waters and getting the income that they should have. So the LOP scheme, and it'll come up again, was a bit of a failure and finally only ended in 2017, just before the marine fishing policy of 2017 came out, which actually said no LOP. The other acts and kind of landmarks to keep an eye on is like in this period is when we had the WLPA, we had the Environment Protection Act, we had the CRZ, so all of these things. So if we're going back, this is what, exclude 1897, but from 1978 to 2004, just about under 30 years, these are the sort of legislations that came into being. Fisheries and sort of the key non-fisheries legislations. But when you look at now the next just 15 years, you have a number of other bills and policies that, that have been published or passed by the government. So you had the Coastal Aquaculture Authority Act. So essentially why this act came out was because in in 97, so sort of in this time period, so just after somewhere here, in 97, the Supreme Court essentially ruled that prawn hatcheries within the CRZ were prohibited because there was a lot of issues around pollution. And so the Supreme Court said that was prohibited, and that authorities should be set up to regulate aquaculture in the country and to provide licenses. And so then this authority, so from 97 till 2005, there was a gap and nothing was done. And then in 2005, we had the Coastal Aquaculture Authority Act that finally set up this authority that is meant to regulate aquaculture in the country, right? So then after that, we had the marine fisheries. So the other thing, of course, I'm just going to put this here, is that between 2005 to 2010, 11 is when all the protests around the CRZ's amendment and the introduction of the CMZ was happening. It was also the time period within which the EIA was introduced. And so in 2009, which is after the fishers had successfully pushed against the 2007-2008 draft notifications, there was a Marine Fisheries Regulation and Management Bill. And there was also a draft, there was also the Traditional Coastal and Marine Fisherfolk Rights Bill. So bills, remember, proposed legislations. And essentially what the Fisheries Bill wanted to say was that it's similar to the bill that's being discussed now, that the EEZ, whereas if you go back here, we've got this Maritime Zones of India Regulation of Foreign Vessels Act, right? So this regulates foreign vessels in our EEZ, but we don't have any laws that regulate Indian vessels in the EEZ. We only have fisheries laws from every state, which regulates fishing in the territorial waters. And so what they said at that time was the idea was that we want to regulate fishing in the EEZ. So we want to license boats that want to fish in the EEZ. So we have an idea of, what our fishing capacity looks like. And I'm not going to get into more detail here, but there was opposition to this bill. There was also an opposition to the Traditional Coastal and Marine Fisherfolk Rights Bill. And maybe this is something we can discuss afterwards, why. Then we had guidelines for operation of deep sea fishing vessels. You see what I'm saying? This deep sea is a trend that keeps coming up, right? So we had these guidelines, which were an outcome of the Meena Kumari report, which again, I think Jones will talk about. So I'm not going to say more about that. But essentially, it was kind of, again, pushing back for these joint ventures, pushing for LOP, saying that we need more bigger vessels out in the EEZ. And so these were guidelines for operation of deep sea vessels, talking about licensing and all of these things which would limit access to it for traditional fishermen in a sense. Right, that's what it would do operationally, if not explicitly on paper. Then we had the new national policy on marine fisheries, which talked a lot about mariculture and deep sea fishing, which was not a surprise given, as you can see, deep sea fishing is something that won't go away. And then right after that, we had in 2019 a slew of policies and bills. We had the National Mariculture Policy, the National Inland Fisheries and Aquaculture Policy, and we had another Marine Fisheries Regulation and Management Bill, which is very similar to the 2009, very similar ideas to what the 2009 bill was saying. And then we've ended now in 2020 with our draft National Fisheries Policy. And so, like I was saying, the other things to keep in mind is all of these other bigger changes that have been happening in the landscape at the same time. So if you look at this 15-year period versus, yikes, it zoomed, which is not my intention, versus the, too many animations, versus this period, which is, okay, put 1897, it's too far in our history, but versus this sort of 30-year period, you can see the number of changes that are happening right now to a lot of our legislations. And that's kind of the purpose of why we should be talking to each other, and also why we should build these networks across different sectors, right? From coastal to forest to activists working on other non-coastal issues, because in a sense, the broader legal landscape is being shifted. And because of the interconnectedness of these legislations, that is a problem. So even if there were no policies on fisheries that were changing, the fact that all of these other changes are happening would still be a cause of great concern for those of us who are in support of fishers and for fishers themselves. And I'm just going to end there because I was told to kind of keep this to half now. And I'm sure there'll be more questions after Saravanan and Jones have talked, but if there are any specific questions now, I'm happy to take them.
Do anyone have specific questions for Marianne right now, or shall we move to Saravanan? Do anyone have questions? So, yeah.
Okay, then we can get...
All right. We have two questions over here.
Oh, okay.
Hi, thank you. It was really helpful. My name is Avli, and maybe if you can talk about why there was an opposition to the traditional coastal and marine rights bill, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Sure. If you want to read more about it, actually a colleague of mine has done a critique, and it's on the Dakshin Foundation website. So I should have introduced myself. I work with an NGO called Dakshin Foundation. I work largely on the CRZ, though I haven't done too much on the 2019, but I did a lot of work around the CRZ from 2011 onwards. So there is a detailed critique there, which you can see, but maybe, actually, instead of me answering that question, let me leave it to Jones, Jesu Akka. Do you all want to answer that question?
So if you go through the entire that bill, you can just, instead of forest, it will be fisher. Just copy paste. Both are very different. And bill cannot be like that. So really we didn't want that, and we wanted to work ourselves, and we took many efforts, as I told in the morning. We will succeed. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Avli, for more details, feel free to look up that document for kind of the specifics. So my colleague had interviewed a lot of people, because neither of us were in the sector at that time, right? So we didn't live these, which is why I'd rather Jesuaka answered that, but you can read that document.
Shall I ask? Marianne, this is Radhika here.
Hi, Radhika.
Sorry. Hi, Marianne, this is Radhika here. So my question, it might be a little stupid, but when a policy is being drafted, even though the policy is not exactly a law, as in does not follow the process of a bill, doesn't go through the parliament. Even then, it is a very official government sort of a document which is released. Over which a lot of public consultation happens.
Yes.
So when a government comes up with a draft policy which is in contravention of existing laws, existing acts, why can the policy then not be challenged in court?
See, if the policy is against the Constitution, it can be challenged in court. I'm not a lawyer, okay? I should probably just preface this. So take some of these really legal questions with a pinch of salt. You might also want to ask a lawyer. But from my understanding, now if a policy went against something that was in our Constitution, they couldn't pass that policy. But legislations were created by us in a sort of, they can be amended, right? So suppose there was a policy that said something against the CRZ or even against the EPA, we would protest it. You might go to court, and actually you might find that it's against certain things in the Constitution, like right to environment or something like that. But acts can be modified, and acts get modified, not as easily as notifications, but they can be. So it's actually the policy is against the act as it stands today, but not necessarily against the act as it might stand tomorrow, which is the gray area that makes it a little bit difficult. But policies are important because they show the intention of the government. And so if the intention of the government is a problem, you don't have to wait for them to amend the act for us to begin working against that amendment, right? And that's why people get worked up a lot about policies, because that's what it tells you. It tells you where their attention is. It tells you what they want. That way, it's a very it really speaks to, what's uppermost in any government's mind when you see the trends in how policies are changing, or what policy they want to bring out now. Why is it important to you, this thing that you bring out of policy, right? These are all give you a sense into the workings of and the motivations of the government. And that's why we participate in those consultations, because we want to let them know what our intentions and values and what we want are, and see that reflected in the policy, in the hopes that even if, and this is the thing, a policy can be against a specific law in a positive way as well, right? It can be a very forward thinking policy, and we strive to, and that's why we engage, because we want forward thinking policies in the hopes that then the act will be changed to mirror that policy. So it can go both ways.
No, I just wanted to know whether policies can be at all challenged whether it was challenged in court or not. Only when it becomes legislation, even notifications and GOs, all those things which are binding on us can be challenged.
Yes.
Policies, it is just direction, and from that many legislations may come, may not come, and when the policies itself is derogatory, we have to create that we don't want such policy, we don't want that policy to be led to legislation. That is what we can do. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who is that?
Hi, Marianne. Meghna here.
Hi, Meghna.
So I wanted to know, because, during such laws or notifications, or, even, the first thing is the notification that comes out. So even when there's a notification that's out, it's not usually in all the local languages. So
a draft. So just
the draft.
let me correct you. You can have a draft bill. You can have, so before the bill is even tabled to Parliament, you can have a draft bill. You can have a draft notification. So yes, the drafts.
The draft. So, one of the main things is in the local languages, because not everybody could read English or Hindi. So that's not taken care at the basic level. And the second one is the consultation program, which is supposed to happen with the local communities. Right?
Yes.
So how could these be better, made better off in the future? Can this itself be a part of a whole new, bill that could be passed? Because because this itself is not being taken care of as of now, or we usually fail to do that. And usually at the consultancy or consultant meetings, there are so many, conflicts that usually happen, and there are hierarchical powers that usually come up. So how can we protect just these meetings and just these forms of things? Because most of environmental drafts and notification has this biggest difficulty in just reaching out. So
that forms, I think Jones and all of them can also speak to when the CZ MPs came out in Tamil Nadu, and they weren't accessible, right? This question of accessibility and whether a consultation is a real consultation forms the core of a lot of protest, right? At which point we say, we're not even bothered about what you've said in this policy, and we're not going to go step by step and critique it, but we have a problem with just the process, and we are not going to engage in your process because we don't think that your process is inclusive, and if it is meant to be a public consultation, then you're not engaged in an inclusive process. So a lot of protests just have that as the core message of the campaign. Now, whether to fix that a law would help, maybe, but I think we're also realizing that just because we have a law doesn't mean it gets implemented, right? And to get it implemented is a lot of work. Now, are you going to court every time, and even if there was a law, every time there's one meeting that hasn't gone well, will you actually go through that court process? Or will you try to engage with the district collector, with those officials there to, would you use the mechanisms we anyway already use rather than go to court? Because your hearing will take a long time. So I think there's practicalities. So I don't know, but but there are different judgments that have set, in a sense, a precedent for how there should be local languages, things like that, which is why you see a lot of translations. The translation again is of poor quality. That's a different thing, right? The fisheries policy now, it was translated into a lot of coastal languages. The translation was bad. So how much will you legislate versus how much at the end of the day is what that person wants to do who is in power at that moment, right? There's a lot of loopholes if you look for loopholes. I did the translation. Translation was terrible is not my problem, but I checked your translation box, right? So legislation is not necessarily the route it doesn't have to be always the first option. Going to court or legislation need not necessarily be, the first option that we all think about. That's my opinion, by the way. It's not a.
So, to say about this policy making, policy and other things, to my understanding of policy reading, so policy, when there is a problem, the government will put a committee. The committee will be formed first, then they will come with recommendations. That recommendations will be framed as a policy. Policy gives a direction. To make the policy power, we should come with the act. For the act, before the act should not come in, there should be a bill. And the bill should go to the parliament and should come to the act. And it should be signed in both, it depends upon the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that the bill should be passed. Then act will come. The same like bill or notification will be there. And if there is a notification, it will come from, you can quote any act and we can bring the notification also. Then, if a state wants to implement it, center has brought something, but if state want to implement it, state has to address and it should bring the rules to implement that. Then, to implement the policy, we need a plan. Policy should come with a plan. So, the plan, act, with the budget is called scheme, which facilitates the entire process. This is the process. Let us see the lens of her. Now, what he said in the timeline, when does the act came, Management Act? When does the Management Act came? 1980. When does the policy came? 2004. Same thing. All these things it depends upon because fisheries is a state subject. So state has to some regulations because there is a fight. Traditional fishers are burning the trawlers, so it should be regulated as soon as possible. So bring the act to control them. So act came. Then they said that no, national level we have to regulate everything. We need a direction. We don't know where we are going. Still we are striking. Where is the definition of fisheries is going now? It's like that. So the policy has come in 2004, and now again the policy has come in 2020. Same thing. It acts for. Another example I give now. Same thing if you see the disaster policies in India. Disaster is also a state subject. It is not the central subject. Disaster Act came in 2005, immediate after the tsunami. To get the World Bank fund, they need a legislation they bought. Policy came in 2009, disaster policy. Disaster plan came in 2016. In between, there is no rules in the states to implement this policy and act. So how does you will get compensation? So policy making bureaucrats itself, they know the nukanas, how these people will come to the scene. Let us see. There will be policies, but there will be no act. There will be scheme, but there will be no plan. So these are the things which has to be traced out, and then only we can go to our court of law. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all.
ரொம்ப உண்மையிலேயே ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. ஏன்னா டெல்லி போரம் இந்த சுச்சுவேஷன் உண்மையிலேயே ஒரு பேடான சுச்சுவேஷன். ஏன்னா மரியன் நிறைய விஷயம் சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க, பாலிசி ஆக்ட் இவ்வளோ விஷயங்கள் பரவாயில்ல சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. உங்களுக்கு என்ன புரிஞ்சது என்ன புரியலன்றதான் சத்தியமாக எனக்கு தெரியல. ஆனால் கண்டிப்பாக ஒரு இப்போ வரைக்குமே பிரச்சனை இருக்கு. 2-3 நாளாக பேசியிருப்பாங்க, 2 செக்ஷன் போயிருக்கு. ஓகேவா, என்ன மாதிரியான பிரச்சனை இருக்குன்றது உங்களுக்கு உணர முடியுன்றது நான் நம்புறேன். பட் உண்மையிலே இந்த அளவுக்கு இளைஞர்கள் பங்களிப்போடு இருக்கிறது உண்மையிலேயே சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. இதுல நான் வந்து கலந்து பேசுறேன்றதை விட அதை விட ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. அதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு கொடுத்த டெல்லி ஃபோரம் உண்மையிலேயே என்னோட மனமார்ந்த நன்றி இருந்துச்சு.
It's very thankful to Delhi Forum for having organized this amazing workshop, because this is the absolute need of the hour, because of the intense amount of pressure on the fishing communities. As Marianne would have explained, there are all sorts of
only no fishing community. It's like entire coast is a pandemic situation.
So as Marianne would have explained, so many laws and new policies are being brought on the coasts. So it is a very good time for us, for more people to be engaged on the coasts, and very thankful for Delhi Forum for not just organizing this, but also inviting me to talk about this topic.
சிஆர்எஸ் பற்றி மரியான் வந்து உங்களுக்கு எப்படி அந்த நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் வந்ததுன்றதை பற்றி சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. சுற்றுச்சூழல் பாதுகாப்பு சட்டத்தின் கீழே செக்ஷன் 3 எப்படி கொண்டு வந்திருக்காங்க, அதை மத்திய அரசாங்கம் கொடுத்த பவரில் எப்படி வந்து சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. அதை பற்றி நான் ஓவராலாக போக விரும்பலை. டைரக்டாகவே ஏன்னா சிஆர்எஸ் 2011, சிஆர்எஸ் 2019, 2019, 2011. ஆனால் இப்போ வரைக்கும் நடைமுறையில் இருக்கிறது 2011 தான். ஆனால் ரெண்டு பற்றியுமே தெரிஞ்சுக்க வேண்டிய கட்டாயம் இருக்கிறதுனால இது ரெண்டுத்தோட வேறுபாடை பற்றி நம்ம பார்ப்போம்.
So as Marianne explained in the section, and as we discussed in the morning also, from 91 onwards we have been having the CRZ frameworks, and it has been continuously being amended. It is the CRZ works is a executive legislation. It is not a full law. It is a delegated legislation which is operating under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. So 2011 and 19 alone we will compare. But as of now, 2011 is what is still legally being operated, because 19 is still the management plans are not yet approved.
சிஆர்எஸ் பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இந்த நோட்டிஃபிகேஷனை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் 3 அத்தாரிட்டியாக வந்து பிரிச்சிருப்பாங்க. டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் லெவல் அத்தாரிட்டி, ஸ்டேட் லெவல் அத்தாரிட்டி, நேஷனல் லெவல் அத்தாரிட்டி. மாவட்ட அளவுலையும் மாநில அளவுலையும் மத்திய அளவுலையும் அதாவது தேசிய அளவுலையும் குழு இருக்கு.
So there is a district level coastal zone management authority, state level coastal zone management authority, and national level coastal zone management authority under 11.
இப்போ நான் தான் அத்தாரிட்டினா எனக்கு வந்து என்னோட டியூரேஷன் இருக்குல்ல, ஒரு போலீஸ் ஸ்டேஷன் இருந்தால் அவங்களுக்கு இந்த போலீஸ் ஸ்டேஷன் இது வரைக்கும் தான் இல்லைன்றது அவங்களுக்குள்ள ஒரு வரையறை இருக்கும். நான் தான் அத்தாரிட்டினா என்னோட பவர் அப்படின்றது எனக்கு வந்து ஒரு எல்லை இருக்கணும். அது ரொம்ப முக்கியம் இல்லை.
So each authority needs to have a jurisdiction that is well defined. So for the CRZ
பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இந்த 2 கோடுகள், அதாவது உயரலை கோடு, தாழ்வலை கோடு, இங்கிலீஷ்ல பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஹை டைடு லைன், லோ டைடு லைன், இந்த 2 கோடு தான் சிஆர்எஸ்க்கும் சரி அதை சார்ந்த கோஸ்டல் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் பிளானுக்கும் சரி அதுதான் முதுகெலும்பு.
So the backbone of the CRZ and the backbone of the coastal zone management plans are these 2 lines, the high tide line and the low tide line, which forms the jurisdictional basis for everything that comes from the CRZ.
இப்போ 2011ல் எப்படி இருக்குன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த ப்ளூ கலர் லைன் வந்து லோ டைட் லைன், ரெட்டு வந்து ஹை டைட் லைன், 200 மீட்டர் வந்து க்ரீன் லைன், லைட் ப்ளூ வந்து 500 மீட்டர். கடலோட நேரடியாக தொடரக்கூடிய நீர்நிலை க்ரீக் அது போல விஷயங்கள், ரிவர் அது போல விஷயங்கள் இருக்கும்போது உயர்நிலை கோடு இருக்கும். உயர்நிலை கோட்டிலிருந்து 100 மீட்டர் பஃபர் இருக்கும். இதுதான் எல்லை. தாழ்நிலை கோட்டிலிருந்து கடல்ல 1 நாட்டிக்கல் மைல். 1 நாட்டிக்கல் மைல்ன்றது ஒரு ஸ்டேட் கவர்மெண்ட் அதிகாரம் செலுத்தக்கூடிய கடல் பகுதியை ஒட்டுமொத்தமும் 1 நாட்டிக்கல் மைல் தான். அது கவனம் சேசம் கவனம்.
So the CZMP map consists of
2011
under 2011 consists of the first line, the first code, which is the first line is the blue color one, is the low tide line. The high tide line will be the red one. Then from there 200 meters will be the no development zone, and then the third line will be the 500 meter line. So these lines are the definition for what a coastal area is. Apart from that, for any bodies that are having a direct tidal impact that are associated with that coast, 100 meters from that bank is also considered as a coastal area, is also considered under CSR. Apart from that, from the low tide line, which forms the baseline, on the seaward side, 12 nautical miles, which is from UNCLOS. 12 nautical miles will also be form part of the CSR.
இந்த 200 மீட்டர் வந்து அதோட உயிர்ன்றது எல்லா ஜோன்லையுமே வராது. ஒன்லி சிஆர்எஸ் 3ல மட்டும்தான் அதுக்கு பவர் இருக்கு. அதை பற்றி நம்ம பின்னாடி டிஸ்கஸ் பார்ப்போம்.
So the third line, the 200 meter line, it has value only in one particular CSR 3, but we will come to it.
1 minute. See, what our scientists have did is that he wants you all to read the act very simple. The words has been mapped. It's a legal act. He has mapped everything in the map. That's what our scientists and experts Saravanan does. He does very simple to address the classes of the law. What does the notification says and what does it appears. So he briefs it with the map. So that's it.
2019 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா உயரலை கோடு தாழ்வலை கோடு அப்படியே இருக்கு. புதுசாக ஒரு கோடு வந்து உள்ளே வந்திருக்கு. 50 மீட்டர் கோடு வந்து உள்ளே வந்திருக்கு. 200 மீட்டர் 500 மீட்டர் அப்படியே இருக்கு. ரிவர் உயரலை கோட்டில் இருந்து 100 மீட்டராக இருந்தது வந்து 50 மீட்டரா குறைச்சிருக்காங்க. கடலில் 12 நாட்டிகள் மேலும் அப்படியே தான் இருக்கு. பட் என்டையர் தீவும் ஐலண்ட் எல்லாமே உள்ளே கொண்டு வந்திருக்காங்க.
So in the 2019 notification, the addition is between the high tide line and the 200 meter line, there is a new 50 meter line. Same way, the creeks and water bodies, what was the 100 meter line from the banks is now reduced to 50 meters. And third major change is any islands. If it's an island, the entire island comes under the jurisdiction.
இப்போ சிஆர்எஸ் 2011 பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் 4 ஜோனாக பிரிச்சிருப்பாங்க. அதாவது 4 மண்டலமாக பிரிச்சிருப்பாங்க. மண்டலம் 1 சிஆர்எஸ் 1 அப்படி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 1A 1B அப்படி சொல்லிட்டு பிரிஞ்சிருக்கு. 2 அதாவது வறட்சடைந்த பகுதி, மாநகராட்சி நகராட்சி உள்ள அந்த வரக்கூடிய பகுதி எல்லாமே சிஆர்எஸ் 2 வச்சிருக்காங்க. சிஆர்எஸ் 1A 1B அப்படி சொல்லும் போது 1A அப்படின் போது இப்போ நீங்கள் வரும்போது பார்த்துருப்பீங்க, இந்த ரிவர் கிராஃப்ட்னு அந்த இடத்துக்கு வந்துருப்பீங்க. நிறைய மேங்கோஸ் பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. மேங்கோஸ், மட்ஃப்ளாட், டேட்டில் நெஸ்டிங் ஏரியா, சீகிராஸ், அந்த கோரல்ஸ், இது போல சுற்றுச்சூழல் முக்கியத்துவம் வாய்ந்த அந்த ஒட்டுமொத்தமும் சிஆர்எஸ் 1A வரும். 1B அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது 2 கோடு பார்த்து பார்த்தீங்களா, உயரலை கோடு தாழ்வலை கோடு பார்த்தீங்களா, அந்த ரெண்டுத்துக்கு இடைப்பட்ட பகுதி, அதாவது அலை தாக்கம் உள்ள பகுதி.
So CRZ is classified into 4. CRZ 1 consists of CRZ 1A and 1B. 1A consists of all ecologically sensitive sites, which includes mangroves, mudflats, coral regions, and all the salt marshes and all those regions. 1B consists of the intertidal areas. Now, intertidal areas in some places will be a short distance, but in places like West Bengal or Gujarat, that intertidal area itself will be many kilometers. Intertidal. So 1B is intertidal. 1A is the ecologically sensitive sites. CRZ 2 consists of the more developed areas and more urban areas along the coast. So most of the big cities along the coasts, the coasts of those areas will be coming under CRZ 2, which will have a different sort of rules.
சிஆர்எஸ் 3 சொல்லும்போது வளர்ச்சி அடையாத பகுதி, அதாவது பேரூராட்சி, அது பஞ்சாயத்து, அது போல கீழே வரக்கூடிய பகுதிகள், கிராமப்புறங்கள், பேசிக்காக பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கிராமப்புறங்கள் வளர்ச்சி அடையாத பகுதி. அந்த பகுதியில் மட்டும்தான் 200 மீட்டர் வரைக்கும் வளர்ச்சி தடை செய்யப்பட்ட பகுதி.
So CRZ 3 consists of the less developed areas, which includes mostly rural areas and which will mostly come under panchayat areas. So the 200 meter line which we saw, it assumes value only in this because the HPL to 200 meter line, that zone is called a no development zone, where several projects and many projects are not allowed in that. but habitation for coastal communities is allowed.
4 வந்து ரெண்டு பிரிவாக பிரிந்திருக்கு, 4A 4B சொல்லிட்டு. 4A வந்து 12 நாட்டிக்கல் மைலோட கடல் பகுதி, ஒட்டுமொத்த கடல் பகுதியுமே 4Aவா பிரித்திருக்காங்க. கடலோடு நேரடியாக தொடர்புடைய நீர்நிலைகள், அது ரிவராக இருக்கட்டும், கெனாலாக இருக்கட்டும், சேனலாக இருக்கட்டும், அது எல்லாமே வந்து 4Bயா சொல்லியிருக்காங்க.
So CRZ 4 consists of all the water in this area. So CRZ 4A consists of the waters, sea waters from the baseline till 12 nautical miles into the sea. So that is the sea water. CRZ 4B consists of all the coastal water bodies, the streams, the lagoons, lakes, and estuaries, bar mouths, all those areas.
ரெண்டாயிரத்தி 19ஓட கிளாசிஃபிகேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சிஆர்எஸ் ஒன்று வந்து மாறல, ஒன்றியாக தான் இருக்கு. சிஆர்எஸ் 2ல பார்த்தீங்கன்னா முன்னாடி நகராட்சி, சென்னை மாநகராட்சிலாம் இருந்தது. ஆனால் இப்போ 50 மீட்டர் பரப்பளவு கொண்ட கட்டிடங்கள் இருந்தால் அது கூட சிஆர்எஸ் 2வா கருதப்படும் சொல்லிட்டு புதுசாக ஒரு வார்த்தையை உள்ளடக்கியிருக்காங்க. சிஆர்எஸ் 3 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 2011ல் சிஆர்எஸ் 3 தான் இருந்தது. அதை இப்போ 2019 எப்படி பிரிக்கிறாங்க பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 3A 3B, அதாவது 2161 மக்களுக்கு மேலே இருந்தாங்கன்னா அது 3Aவா கருதப்படுறாங்க. அந்த இடத்துல வெறும் 50 மீட்டர் வரைக்கும் தான் நோ டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஜோன். அதுக்கு குறைவாக இருந்தாங்கன்னா அங்கே ஏற்கனவே இருக்க 200 மீட்டர் நோ டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஜோன் பொருந்தும். 4A வந்து அப்படியே தான், 4 வந்து மாறல, அப்படியே தான்.
So in the 2019 notification, the definition for CRZ 1, that is 1A and 1B, that is unchanged. But the CRZ 2 areas, it is in highly developed areas, it is reduced to 50 meters only. Yes.
இந்த பரப்பளவு கூட கட்டிடம் பரப்பளவு செக்ஷனோட ஸ்கொயர் இல்லை கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷனோட ஏதோ அடர்த்தி இருக்குல்ல, 50 மீட்டர் பரப்பளவு அடர்த்தி இருந்தால் அது சேர்த்து காலத்தொட்டி இப்போ வந்து இப்போ சிஆர்எஸ் 3 இருக்கு. அது அங்கே கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ஏரியா இப்போ கட்டடங்கள் ஃபுல்லாக இருக்குல்ல, 50 மீட்டர் பரப்பளவு கட்டடங்கள் ஃபுல்லாக இருந்ததுன்னா அது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக டூல வந்துடும்.
ஓ ஓகே, அது வேற 3 இருந்தாலும் கூட அது
2 தான் சொல்லுவாங்க.
So areas that were under CRZ 3 in the previous 2011, if the size of those constructions were more than 50 meters, then 50 square meters in area, they would also be considered CRZ 2. In CRZ 3 was modified according to the population density. So according to the population density, they had CRZ 3A, which are highly dense rural areas. CRZ 3B,
2161 people, more than people இருந்தாங்கன்னா 3A.
So 2161 people per kilometer square.
கிலோமீட்டர் கிடையாதா?
அதான் square.
CRZ 3 2161 more than people is living. That place is a CRZ 3A. CRZ 3 2001 only 3 only. But right now 2019 3A 3B is a category. It's a category. 2161 more than people is living. The place 3A less than 3B. 3A அதிகமா, அதாவது 2161 மக்களுக்கு மேல வாழ்றாங்கன்னா அந்த இடத்துல வந்து ஏரியா கிடையாது. டென்சிட்டி கிடையாது. அது சென்சஸ் டேட்டா வந்து சொல்லுவாங்க, டென்சிட்டி கிடையாது. அந்த இடத்துல 3A வந்து 50 மீட்டர் ஒன்லி நோ டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஜோன். 3B ஆக்சுவலாக இருக்கக்கூடிய 200 மீட்டர் நோ டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஜோன். 4 வந்து அப்படியே தான் இருக்கு. ரெண்டாயிரத்தி 11 நோட்டிபிகேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நீர் முகப்பு தேவைக்கூடிய திட்டங்கள் அட்டாமிக் எனர்ஜி அது போல ப்ராஜெக்ட் மட்டும்தான் லேண்ட் ரெக்ரிமேஷன் பண்ணி கொண்டு வர முடியும். ஓகேவா? சிஎஸ்எஃப் இது எல்லா ஜோன்லையுமே சிஎஸ்எஃப் ஒன்றே வரட்டும், இது போல விஷயத்துக்கு வந்து கொண்டு வர முடியும்.
So exemptions are only defining what CRZ is, because although they have defined what CRZ areas are, in every area they have any number of exemptions. So industries which have a direct need for the water, those industries were always allowed, and those include nuclear power plants.
இப்போ 2019 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டூரிசம், ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக், டிஃபென்ஸ், பப்ளிக் யூட்டிலிட்டிஸ், இந்த 4 கேட்டகரியில் வரக்கூடிய திட்டங்களுக்கு எந்த ஜோனில் வேணாலும் லேண்ட் ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன் பண்ணி கொண்டு வர முடியும். உதாரணத்துக்கு கடலுக்குள்ள ஒரு சிட்டியை உருவாக்க முடியும். சாகர்மாலா போல ப்ராஜெக்டை ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக்காக தான் அரசாங்கமே வந்து கொண்டு வராங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் கரெக்ட் ஸ்மார்ட் சிட்டி எல்லாமே ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக்காக தான் கொண்டு வராங்க. இது போல எல்லாமே இந்த கேட்டகரியில் வர ப்ராஜெக்ட் எல்லாமே எந்த ஜோனில் வேணால் லேண்ட் ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன் பண்ணி கொண்டு வர முடியும்.
So in the 2019 notification, apart from the direct waterfront industries, tourism, defense, infrastructure projects, and as well as national strategic projects, all these are also allowed regardless of CRZ 1 or 4 or whatever it is. So anything can be now classified under these projects. So Sagarmala projects are all considered national strategic projects. Oil and gas, offshore hydrocarbon projects are all considered strategic projects. All the projects that are coming under smart city projects, they are all considered infrastructure projects. Tourism of all sorts are all considered under.
இதில் இன்னொரு முக்கியமான விஷயம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, டூரிசத்துக்கு ஐடியாவிலிருந்து 10 மீட்டர் பஃபர் விட்டுட்டு டெம்பரரி டூரிசம் இது போல விஷயங்கள் வந்து பண்ணிக்க முடியும் 2019.
So now regardless of what CRZ area it is, there is a new 10-meter buffer zone that they have created, within which you can erect temporary structures for tourist facilities. Now what the definition of temporary is not given, because in one place many places they are actually putting cement concrete foundation walls and they are calling it temporary. So all this is, so this, the CRZ 19 allows problems. 10 meter temporary structure for tourists. They have a clause.
வேலை கோட்டில் இருந்து 10 மீட்டர் இடைவெளி விட்டுட்டு, ஓகேவா, தற்காலிகமா இப்போ ஒரு குடிசை போட்டோ இது பண்ணியோ இல்லை ஒரு இடத்துல ஷவர் போட்டு குளிக்கிறதுக்கோ போயிட்டு வந்தாங்கன்னா அது போல விஷயம், அதாவது சுற்றுலாக்கான தற்காலிக விஷயத்தை தவிர்த்து பண்ணிக்க முடியும்.
So you can put shacks and the umbrella போட்டு அந்த மாதிரிலாம் பண்ணலாம். ஆனா இது சட்டத்தை வந்ததுனால அவங்க ஆக்சுவலைஸ் மட்டும் போட்டு
when you said it was exempt, then why taking this the white by the 10 meters?
டூரிசத்துக்கு வந்து இப்போ டூரிசத்தில் 2 விதமான இருக்கு, பர்மனன்ட் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் அண்டு டெம்பரரி ஸ்ட்ரக்சர். நீ சொல்றது பர்மனன்ட் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்லாம் வந்து என்னோட பண்ண முடியும். பட் இந்த விஷயத்தில் வந்து டெம்பரரி ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் வந்து 10 மீட்டர் இவங்களே வந்து விட்டுருக்காங்க, சட்டத்திலே வந்து கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. டெம்பரரி என்னோட பண்ணிக்கலாம் சொல்லிட்டு சட்டத்தை எக்ஸ்டென்ஷன் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. பட் டூரிசம் அதாவது ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக்கெலாம் வந்து எந்த சொல்லணும்னா வரலாம் சொன்னால் கூட, பட் அது வந்து ஒரு ரூல்ஸ் அண்ட் ரெகுலேஷன் இருக்குது. இந்த கட்டுமானம் இது போல விஷயங்கள்லாம் இருக்குது. ஆனால் இந்த டெம்பரரி டூரிசத்துக்கு எந்த ஒரு இதுவுமே இல்லை, ஓப்பன் இதுவாக திறந்து விட்டுருக்காங்க.
So for even the tourism projects that are allowed, there are certain restrictions. But for the 10 meter temporary structures, there are no such regulations. Yeah.
ஐடியில் என்னன்னா, நான் தமிழில் சொல்கிறேன், கடல் அலை இருக்குல்ல, இப்போ ஃபுல் மூன் இருக்கு, டார்க் மூன் இருக்குன்னா கடலோட அலை வந்து அதிகமாக வந்து பாயிற இடம், ஓகேவா, அதை வந்து ஒரு கண்ட்ரோல் பாயிண்ட் எடுத்து அதை சர்வே பண்ணி எந்த அலை கடைசி அதிகமாக போயிருக்கோ அதை கண்ட்ரோல் பாயிண்டாக எடுத்துக்குவாங்க. அதாவது நம்ம என்னோட ஃபிஷர்மேன் இதில் சொல்லும் போது வந்து ஏத்தம் வத்தம் அப்படின்வாங்க, ஓகேவா. அது வந்து ஏத்தம்ன்றது இந்த ஐடைல், சாரி இதில் ஐடைல் ஏத்தலாம், இங்கே நான் ரோட் காமிக்கல, ஓகேவா. வத்தனா ஓகேவா, ரெண்டு கரண்ட் சேஞ்ச் ஆகும்போது வத்தம் ஏற்படும், ஏத்த இருக்கும். அந்த கோடை தான் ஐடலைன் லோடைன் சொன்னேன்.
The sea acts with the role of the moon, full moon and the so two times it will be there will be high tide and low tide. You can also see here also the ferry, what time you go and what time. So during the high tide is that we are standing in the beach, it comes to the shore and it goes now. How the extreme end during the full, what is that is the high tide. The extreme reverse of this what it happens.
2011 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சிஆர்எஸ் நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் 2011 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட்டுக்கு ஒன்லி சிஆர்எஸ் மட்டும் கவர் ஆகுதுனாலும் சரி, ஈசி பிளஸ் சிஆர்எஸ், ஈசினா என்வரான்மெண்டல் கிளியரன்ஸ், ஓகேவா, சிஆர்எஸ்னா சிஆர்எஸ் கிளியரன்ஸ் ஒன்று இருக்கு, என்வரான்மெண்டல் ரெண்டுமே கவர் ஆகுதுன்னா கேட்டகரி ஏ பின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ப்ராஜெக்ட் வந்து கேட்டகரைஸ் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க, ஓகேவா. எப்படி பார்த்தாலும் இந்த கமிட்டிக்கு பர்மிஷன் கொடுக்கறதுக்கு 2011 மாவட்டத்துக்கோ அதாவது டிஸ்ட்ரிக்டோ ஸ்டேட்டுக்கோ பவர் கிடையாது, அனுமதி கொடுக்கறதுக்கு பவர் கிடையாது. இப்போ ஒன்லி ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் சிஆர்எஸ்ல வருதுன்னா இவங்க டெல்லிக்கு தான் அதை பரிந்துரை பண்ணி அனுப்ப முடியும். சப்போஸ் கேட்டகரி பி இருக்கு, சிஆர்எஸ்க்கும் கவர் ஆகுது, ஈஸியும் கவர் ஆகுதுன்னா எஸ்ஏஏன்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கும், ஸ்டேட் என்வரான்மெண்டல் இம்பாக்ட் அசஸ்மெண்ட் அத்தாரிட்டி சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கு, அவங்க கிட்ட தான் அந்த ஃபைல் வந்து போகும். ஆனால் இவங்களுக்கு அனுமதி கொடுக்கறதுக்கான பவர் வந்து இந்த சட்டத்துல இல்லை, 2011 இல்லை. இதுக்குமே
So in CRZ 2011, so for any project, you need two kinds of clearances. You need the environmental clearance and you need the CRZ clearance. So there are two kinds of projects which are categorized as category A and category B. For category A projects, they will need to get the environmental clearance, but for the CRZ clearance, they need to go directly to Delhi, go to the national authority. For the CRZ-B, the category B projects, for their environmental clearance, they have to go to the state level environmental impact assessment. They have to go to those authorities. So either way, the district level and state level bodies have no powers in giving clearances for A and B.
Examples, one port system, that is category A. Fishing harbor is a category D. Okay. But 2019 notification பார்த்தீங்கன்னா CRZ 1 அந்த 4 ஜோன் சொன்னாங்க, CRZ 1ல வர ப்ராஜெக்டும் CRZ 4ல வர ப்ராஜெக்டும் டெல்லிக்கு போகும். CRZ 2ல வரதும் CRZ 3ல வரதும் ஸ்டேட்டே வந்து அனுமதி கொடுக்க முடியும். 300 சதுர மீட்டர் 3229 சதுர அடி இந்த ஸ்கொயர் ஃபீட், அதில் ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் அந்த அளவில் ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் கொண்டு வராங்கன்னா டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் லெவல்லையே வந்து அப்ரூவ் பண்ண முடியும்.
So in the 19 notification, all projects coming in CRZ 1 and 4 will go directly to Delhi, whereas CRZ 2 and 3 can be approved at the state level coastal zone management authority. So he showed there are 3 coastal zone management authorities, so one at national, one at state and one at district level. So for projects coming in CRZ 2 and 3, it's enough if you go to the state level authority. For projects in 1 and 4, you have to go to the national level authority. But for projects which cover an area of less than 3,229 square feet, the district level authority itself is empowered to give.
இது ஆக்சுவலாக இப்போ நீங்கள் எல்லாருமே வந்து இணைஞ்சிருக்கிறதுனால இது ஏன் இந்த நோட்டிஃபிகேஷனும் வெறும் நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் மட்டும் தெரிஞ்சு ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியாது. நோட்டிஃபிகேஷனோட கூட சேர்ந்து இந்த பிளானும் தெரியும். ஏன்னா உன்னோட வில்லேஜோ இல்லை நீ எந்த ஜோனில் இருக்கின்ற விஷயங்கள் தெரியணும். நீ வாழ்கிற இருப்பிடங்கள் வந்து எங்கே இருக்குன்ற ஒரு புரிதல் இருந்தால் மட்டும்தான் சட்டத்தையும் திருத்தையும் வச்சு தான் பார்க்க முடியுமே தவிர சட்டத்தை மட்டும் வச்சு நம்ம ஒன்றும் பண்ண முடியாது.
So seeing the CRZ alone is pointless because our actual game is happening in the coastal zone management plans, which is what on the basis of what all these plans are. So from the CRZ we have to understand how the management plans are being made, in which area we lie in, what kind of management plan is happening in our zone, which in we come in which zone we can all find out.
Can you zoom this picture?
No, but that map itself is very.
This is two example. This is a State Coastal Management Authority, District Coastal Management Authority, Tamil Nadu. This is Thuthukudi district, Thuthukudi District Coastal Management Authority. This project is a desalination plant, 60 MLD desalination plant. This is higher Institute of Remote Sensing map. Authorities are doing the map. District Coastal Management Authority, this project clear that recommend to State Coastal Management Authority. State Coastal Management Authority recommend to pass the clearance, recommend to the National Coastal Management Authority. When date 14 February 2020. This one இந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இப்போ தமிழ்நாட்டில் ரொம்ப முக்கியமாக பேசப்படக்கூடிய ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் இது. அதானியோட ப்ராஜெக்ட். அதானி வந்து திருவள்ளூர் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்டில் பொன்னேரி தாலுக்கில் காட்டுப்பள்ளி வில்லேஜில் அவர் வந்து துறைமுக ப்ராஜெக்டுக்காக போட்டிருக்காரு. இங்கே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா தெரியும் உங்களுக்கு, மல்டி பர்பஸ் போட்டிருப்பாரு, லிக்விட் இது நிறைய இது பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. ஃபுல்லாக இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஏரியா ஃபுல்லாக கடலில் கிட்டத்தட்ட 2000 ஏக்கர் வந்து கடலில் லேண்டாக மாற்ற போகிறாங்க. இந்த இடம் கழிவெளியாக இருக்குது, ஃபுல்லாக கழிவெளின்னு கை வைக்கிறாங்க. ஓகேவா? பட் ஆனால் இது ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் மேப் இருக்குது. பட் இதுக்கும் சிஆர்எஸ்க்கு என்ன சம்மந்தம் இருக்குது அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா,
So this is the master plan of the Kattupalli port of Adani, which we been speaking about for the last 2 days. So that's north of Chennai city. Adani is building this, is expanding the existing port, and this is coming under the estuary area of the river, and they are going to reclaim 2,500 square meters inside the sea.
இது அப்ரூவ் கோஸ்டல் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் பிளான் தமிழ்நாடோட திருவள்ளூர் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்டோட பிளான் இது. அந்த பிளான்ல இவங்க ப்ராஜெக்டை சூப்பர் இம்போஸ் பண்ணி பார்க்கும்போது அவரோட இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் டெவலப்மெண்ட் எல்லாமே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சிஆர்எஸ்க்குள்ள வரும். பட் சிஆர்எஸ் நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் கீழே வந்து வாட்டர் மெயின்டைனுக்கு மட்டும்தான், நீர்முகப்பு தேவை மட்டும் தான் அனுமதி உண்டே தவிர இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் பர்பஸுக்குலாம் வந்து சிஆர்எஸ் ஏரியாவில் அனுமதிக்க முடியாது. ஏன்னா காமராஜ் போர்ட் இதே போல தான் பண்ணாங்க. அவங்களையும் வந்து ஒட்டுமொத்தமாக ஃபுல்லாகவே ஸ்டாப் ஆகிடுச்சு. அவங்க ட்ரீக்களை கொட்டி மண்ணை கொட்டி ரெக்கவர் பண்ணாங்க. மறுபடியும் வந்து கமிட்டி வந்து அதை எடுக்க வச்சாங்க. ஏன்னா சிஆர்எஸ் ஏரியாவுக்குள்ள இண்டஸ்ட்ரியல் பர்பஸுக்கெல்லாம் வந்து சட்டப்படியே வந்து பண்ண முடியாது. இன்னொரு ரொம்ப முக்கியமான விஷயம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, இந்த இடத்துல வந்து அதிகமாக கடல் அரிப்பு ஏற்படக்கூடிய இதுவாக அறிவித்திருக்காங்க. அதே சிஆர்எஸ் நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் கீழே ரொம்ப தெளிவாக சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. அதே செக்ஷன் 3 அண்டர் செக்ஷன் 8ல வந்து இரோடிங் அதிக கடலுக்குள்ள பகுதியில் துறைமுகங்கள்லாம் நீங்கள் கொண்டு வர முடியாது, சட்டப்படியே வந்து கொண்டு வர முடியாது.
So in the master plan, they have shown the master plan is not just for the port and the breakwaters, but for various terminals and also adjoining industries along that are adjacent to the port. That are all. So it's not just a port; it is a smart industrial city. So those industries are industries which are not having a direct waterfront activity, but it is those industries which are being approved right next to the coastal water bodies. Same way, the breakwaters are all being planned in areas which are already classified as highly eroding coasts. So under a certain subsection 3, under areas classified as highly eroding coasts, you cannot expand the port. So this clause was actually used just south of this. In Ennur there is a Kamarajar port. So in the Kamarajar port there are there is a thermal power plant which is dumping all its ash onto the Kustalaya river. So using this clause, we were actually using the idea that without direct waterfront activities, industries are not allowed. We were able to win the court case and prevent dumping of the water body in Ennur.
பலநாடு மக்கள் வந்து இது சம்மந்தமாக அவங்களோட மீன் பிடிக்கிற இடமும் இதுதான். இது எல்லாத்தையும் மென்ஷன் பண்ணி அவங்க கடிதம் அனுப்பிச்சதுனால கமிட்டி வந்து விசிட் பண்ணி ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ராங்கான டிஓஆர் வந்து அதுக்கப்புறம் கொடுத்தாங்க. ஆக்சுவலாக அவங்க கொடுக்கக்கூடாது, இருந்தாலும் அதானி போல ஒரு பெரிய இருக்கிறதுனால இருந்தாலும் கொடுத்தாங்க. பட் நிறைய கண்டிஷன் போட்டு டிஓஆர் கொடுத்தாங்க. பட் மக்களோட போராட்டத்துக்கு இது பப்ளிக் ஹியரிங் டிஓஆர் முடிச்சு ஏஎம் முடிச்சாங்க டிசம்பரில் 2020. 2000 இந்த மாதம் ஜனவரியில் 22ஆம் தேதி பப்ளிக் ஹியரிங் நடந்ததாக இருந்தது. மக்களோட எதிர்ப்பும் பொலிட்டிஷியனோட சப்போர்ட்டும் இப்போ பப்ளிக் ஹியரிங் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகிருக்கு.
So the local committees, the residents and the fishing communities understood this, and they wrote various letters to all the committee members, and the committee members actually came and visited the site and all, and on the basis of this, the terms of reference TOR for this project had to be revised, and they were revisited. There was also a public hearing for this that was planned on Jan 22nd in Chennai, but people were sure to boycott, so the company also said to postpone, and it is now indefinitely postponed.
அதே போல வைலேஷன் வந்து இது பண்ணுற ஒரு பக்கம் இருந்தால் கூட, இது போல கண்டுபிடிச்சு பண்ணுறது இருந்தால் கூட, சட்டம் அந்த நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் தெரிஞ்சால் ஒரு ஃபிஷர்மேன் இருக்கும்போது காமனாக ஒரு மீனவருக்கு போய் கேட்டிங்கன்னா கடற்கரை வந்து அவங்களோட சொத்து மாதிரி, பூர்வீக சொத்து மாதிரி தான் பேசுவாங்க. ஆனால் சட்டத்து நிஜ வாழ்க்கையில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அவங்களுக்கு அது ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. ஆனால் அது எங்கே மென்ஷன் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, அதே சிஆர்எஸ் நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் கீழே செக்ஷன் 5 அனெக்ஷன் 1ல் டி செக்ஷன் ஹசார்ட் மேப்பிங் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கும். அதில் வந்து சவுத் பேராவில் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மீனவ கிராமத்தை வந்து காமிக்கணும். மீனவ கிராமத்தோட பொது சொத்துக்கள், அதாவது வலை வைக்கிற இடம், மீன் காய் வைக்கிற இடம், வலை இருக்கிற இடம், அது போல விஷயங்கள், மீனவ சமுதாயத்தோட சமூக கட்டமைப்புகள், அவங்களோட கோவில் எங்க இருக்கு, குளம் எங்க இருக்கு, அது போலலாம் காமிக்கணும்.
So, in general, amongst the movement in Tamil Nadu also, our slogan itself is Kadalam Kadakkarayum Kadalalikke, means the coasts and the seas belong to the coastal communities. But the law doesn't recognize all this. The law recognizes all this as Publc or government or coastal wastelands or some other category. However, in the CZMP, there is a requirement to map all the community used spaces and community mappings and usage of spaces for all cultural activities, livelihood activities, including drying of fish, our religious spaces, our schools, our walk paths, even if it's barren land, if it's a place that is used as access path, even those have to be noted down under the community mapping.
சட்டப்படி இதெல்லாம் வந்து பதிவு பண்ணணும். அது ரொம்ப முக்கியம்.
Yeah, so this is a requirement, this is a mandate for preparing the legal mandate of the CZMP.
இது வந்து குணகுப்பத்தோட மேப்பு.
I just want to know, this is the first time some sort of visual mapping of community research has been done. Has this been done before?
It happened. This is the first time in the map
இதை பற்றி நான் உங்களுக்கு இந்த லாஸ்ட் ஸ்லைடு இது முடிச்சது சொல்கிறேன். ஏன்னா அது என்னோட வில்லேஜில் நான் பாதிக்கப்பட்டதுனால ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் என்னோட வில்லேஜ் தான் வந்து அதை பண்ணிச்சு. அது ஒரு ஸ்டோரி இருக்குது. அந்த ஸ்டோரி சொல்கிறதுக்காக நம்ம தனியாக சொல்லுவோம்.
The whole idea of community mapping in India itself took a big leap after his experiences which he narrated.
இது வந்து தமிழ்நாடு திருவள்ளூர் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் பொன்னேரி தாலுக் பழவேற்காடு ரெவன்யூ வில்லேஜ் கூனங்குப்பம் சொல்லிட்டு அதான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வில்லேஜ். அந்த வில்லேஜில் அங்கே உள்ள மக்களுக்கு, ஏன்னா என்னதான் ஒரு கிராமத்தில் வந்து நானும் சேர்மனாக இருந்தால் கூட அந்தந்த கிராம மக்களுக்கு மட்டும்தான் அந்த கிராமத்தை பற்றி புரிதல் இருக்குது. அந்த மக்களோட உதவியோட அந்த டெக்னாலஜி யூஸ் பண்ணி அவங்க பண்ண மேப் இருக்குது. இந்த மேப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி 2013 ஒரு டிராஃப்ட் பிளான் வந்தது. இந்த பிளானில் வந்து சட்டப்படி சரியாக செய்யலை அப்படின்றத பற்றி ஜெயசர்தா வந்து ஒரு கேஸ் போட்டு, ஓகேவா, அதுக்கப்புறம் நிறைய இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ண சொன்னாங்க, சட்டத்தில் இருக்கப்படி பண்ண சொன்னாங்க. இப்போ 2018 அப்ரூவ் பண்ண விஷயத்தில் மக்கள் பண்ண விஷயம், அதாவது இந்தியாவிலேயே வேற எந்த ஒரு ஸ்டேட்லையுமே அது இந்த போல விஷயம் நடக்கலை. தமிழ்நாட்டில் மட்டும் தான் வந்திருக்கு. அந்த வில்லேஜ் மக்கள் எப்படி பண்ணி கொடுத்தாங்களோ அந்த ஸ்டேட் கூட மாறாமல் எல்லாமே அது இன்கார்பரேட் வந்து ஆயிருக்கு.
So based on the 2011 CRZ notification, Tamil Nadu actually came up with a draft coastal zone management plan in 2013. So this is actually the northernmost coastal village in Tamil Nadu called Pooningkuppam in Pulicat, near Pulicat Lake. So the 2013 map had no details at all.
Only waypoint.
It did not note any of the livelihood usages, community usage areas. Only survey maps and all were superimposed, and that's it. So this was actually legally challenged by CAN. So later, with the help of the community youth, Saravanan was actually involved in mapping the community usage of that village. So in 2018, when the government finally came up with the CRZ plan, these exact contours were used. So this is the first such case of community people themselves mapping out their village usage and that being recognized and incorporated into the government approved CRZ.
இப்போ இதில் நிறைய பேர் கிராமத்தம் பட்டா இருக்கு. சில பேர் கடலுக்கு சொந்தமான லேண்டில் இருக்காங்க. இப்போ அதையும் அவங்க வருவாய்க்கு தோன்றியாக காமிச்சிருக்கிறதுனால இப்போ பட்டா கேட்டு அப்ளை பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. அதுவும் இப்போ ப்ராசஸ் பண்ணி இந்த மேப் மூலிமா போயிட்டு இருக்கு. அவங்களுக்கான ரோடு வசதியும் இது மூலிமா கிடைச்சிருக்காங்க.
So many people without pattas were able to claim their patta on the basis of their usage on this, and because of this, a lot of new village roads are also being constructed.
இப்போ உங்களுக்கு புரிஞ்சிருக்கும் சிஆர்எஸ்ஓட முக்கியத்துவம் என்ன, சிசிடிஎம்பியோட முக்கியத்துவம் என்ன சொல்லிட்டு. ஒரு விஷயம் நடக்குதுன்னா, ஒரு உதாரணத்துக்கு என்னோட கிராமத்தில் யாரோ ஒருத்தர் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. ஏதோ ஒரு கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ஹோட்டல் கட்டுறாங்கன்னா ஓகேவா, அதுக்கு பர்மிஷன் இருக்கா இல்லையா, அவன் எந்த ஜோனில் கட்டுறான், நான் வாழ்கிற இடம் எந்த மண்டலத்தில் இருக்குது, அது உயர்நிலை கொண்டு எவ்வளோ தூரத்தில் இருக்குது, இது எல்லாமே இப்போ இருக்க யூத்துக்கு தெரிய வேண்டிய அவசியம் இருக்குது. ஏன்னா இப்போ இருக்க காலகட்டத்தில் ஒட்டுமொத்த எந்த ஒரு பாலிசியாக இருக்கட்டும் ஓகேவா, எந்த ஒரு சட்டமாக இருக்கட்டும் எல்லாமே கோஸ்ட்டை அந்த லேண்டை மையமாக வச்சும், அதாவது கடலையும் கடற்கரையையும் டார்கெட் பண்ணி அதை ஒரு பொருளாதார பார்வையில் அது மேலே ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு ப்ரெஷரை உருவாக்குறதுனால அப்போ கண்டிப்பாக இது போல விஷயங்கள் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியம். இப்போ மேரியன் சொல்லும் போது கூட சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க, இந்த கோஸ்டல் அக்வாகல்ச்சர் அத்தாரிட்டி ஆக்டாக இருக்கட்டும், கோஸ்டல் அக்வாகல்ச்சர் அத்தாரிட்டி ஆக்டையும் சிஆர்எஸ்ஐ பற்றி தான் பேசியிருப்பாங்க ஓகேவா. அந்த கோஸ்ட் அப்படின்றது அந்த சிஆர்எஸ்ஐயோட எல்லை தான் மென்ஷன் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. நிறைய விஷயத்தில் நிறைய சட்டங்கள் சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. மரியாதை நிறைய விஷயத்த சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க. அது எல்லா சட்டமும் அந்தந்த சூழலுக்கு ஏற்ற மாதிரி தான் பயன்படுத்த முடியும். அதை எந்த சூழலில் பயன்படுத்துன்றது அந்த சூழல் தான் அதை தீர்மானிக்கும் ஓகேவா.
So as Marianne listed out so many list of laws which are specific to different zones and different geographies. So CRZ is also has to be used like that. We are, as we have explained throughout, the coasts are becoming the center of our economy, and there are new projects mushrooming everywhere. Public projects, private projects, PPP projects, all sorts of projects. Some tourism hotels are coming everywhere. So as of now, without fishing communities and coastal communities, without any legal recognition in law, this CRZ and CZMP is the only legal apparatus we are having to fight against those projects.
Thanks.
So I've actually created a response of National Fish Workers Forum on the CRZ 2018 notification, which was a response prepared by a lot of people together. It's a collective process. It sort of explains a lot of things that Saravanan also talked about. So in that, Saravanan, Siddhar, all these Marianne, all these people, I mean, all these people are involved in that. So that will sort of give you, and after that, the next one also came, that's a good reference to sort of understand like the history of different laws. The timeline is also put in that, so we can refer to that as circulate in the book, right?
So the morning it was nice, not bad. There are so many interactive sections. It's all about how the institution works, the livelihood of the bureaucrats. It's also their livelihood. You have to consider their livelihood. They have to consider their livelihood because they also have families. So only so many laws. In the laws there are institutions, and our budget is there, and our commission agents or ministers are there to establish everything. And there are also global instruments which are nice to see, but hard to implement. That prism, let's go into it. The first day I told about regulation and management. Somebody remember that? What is regulation? Simple example. I gave a simple example. Management and regulation. I said an example of the story.
Management is living with devil, but you have to manage.
Devil and I am in a room.
And you have to live with devil, but with certain rules. Regulation is you and devil in the same room, but kick out devil.
Devil. Yeah. And if there is somebody like you now coming and saying, now, that is the authority. Now between us. You got it? You got it now. So regulation and management cannot go together. This is the principle. Can't do that. So what has done is that our scientist, the other thing is that our scientist has roamed here and there. Before going in 2 days, he has marked the entire area. Whether we are in CRZ zone or not, he will say at the end of the day. He went to the swimming pool and other areas. So that much enthusiasm of scientists is there. Yes, Saravanan is a one-on-one person who is against the greatest big boss, Adani. She has showed everything. It is incomparable. We can't, because it will be everything in white and black. But the thing he missed that he came from 2011. But CRZ came in 2019. What is CRZ means? Somebody say what is CRZ? Coastal regulations. What Saravanan said about the maps? What map did Saravanan say?
The coastal zone management.
Coastal zone? Management. So the Act says it is regulation, but it manages the plan. Whether regulation and management can go together? So the words are very good, beautiful, but management is inside. That means I and factory should live together. Got it, na? So what happened after 91 in 2000? Our scientist, Green Revolution scientist, Saravanan, he came up with this called management, coastal zone management plan, CZM. Everybody opposed because we don't want management, we need regulation. After this happened, it started from 2000 and it went now. Suddenly Mother Sea got angry and tsunami came. Then what happened? 2011 this map came. Management is part of regulation, which all wisdom there is. So he won the agenda because that should be implemented with the plan. That plan is a management plan, not a regulation plan. This is the wise bureaucrats do the works. And if you see that 1, 2, 3, 4, he was narrating everything, all things can come. Except what except port, industries, nuclear power plant. So this was how the law and notification rolls down. So this is the wider thing. Then coming to the fisheries asset. Because the entire CRZ is about both, CRZ 4 is about sea, but it is about the land management. So throughout the policy, as I said yesterday, we have also seen about fishing. Now we are coming to the question called National Fisheries Policy, which came in 2020. But the 5-year plan started in 1950. Without a policy, we are running the show. Anil said. What is the basis? This is the basis. This is the basis. The value of the ocean-based economy is estimated between 3 trillion per year. This is the basis of the fisheries policy. Not alone here. If you go to the YouTube and if you also put like common fisheries policy in UK, because now it is coming as common fisheries policy, they are trying to centralize the sea. So before going to the, after tsunami is a great disaster. But tsunami is also tsunami is also we can keep as a
JCB. Here is post the JCB.
Line. Before and after. Limestone. Milestone. So if while talking, Marianne was explaining, after 2005, if you see the varieties of laws, why? The question comes why? You have seen the plurality of the laws and other things. CSWP, landwards, seawards. How confusion it is. All agree with that? Now imagine a disaster comes. That is my PhD. And how must I locating the rights of the people? So this is the way where we locate the rights. So what happened after tsunami? Our people, our national guys, because they are not expert enough. If you go for port also, whatever now, they will call from a white person. Who will see the only who has seen like people from consultants who come from West. They would have been seeing India only in the map. But they will be drafting our policy. That is the greatest thing. Then imagine how the policy bureaucracy works. These are all satellite maps and Google maps. With that they will identify everything. Who doesn't know the social plurality, legal plurality, there the lapse comes. I will start with the story before the institutions, law, management, everything. Because morning when Vijayanana was saying the hat and the monkey story, I remember my father saying a story. Because I studied still 12th standard, sitting near my father. He was written with all the equipments he had. Because he knows the importance of education because he didn't learn. That's all. So still 6th standard I was in a matriculation school, it is so expensive. There they give moral sense. It was moral sense. Moral sense. In that moral sense, the first story was there. I was in the 6th standard, there was a story. All made me remember. Rabbit and the tortoise. You hear? Yeah. What did rabbit and the tortoise? Who finally won the match? All knows now. Everybody has read. My father said that this is the story. You write like this itself, but the logic is wrong. So why? How does the logic work? He said that even though tortoise is base and power, and his wings and everything is stronger in the sea. The legs, everything, is stronger in the sea. This creature, rabbit, is stronger in the land. The race itself is unlogic. The race itself unlogic. Then, if it is unlogic, his work is done, he slept. Rabbit. Because he is faster. So So these are the unlogical stories which comes now. He said that these are unlogical. And also he says that sun rises in the east, sun never rises. Earth revolves. But it is a universal truth. We have to accept. Same thing, bureaucrats thing. This story. Why I am saying that these are the bureaucrats. You can compare the bureaucrats. You can compare the story with the bureaucrats. Because they also doesn't know where is the power, where is the power in the sea. Who has the power in the land and who has the power in the sea. Where the apps comes. Seeing the policy. So, these guys, World Bank, they call World Bank. The World Bank are very clear. When you call only, we will come. Otherwise, we will not come. But when in a team meeting, I will say the secretary or the minister that your fisheries policy is very bad. We can do this, we can do that. Then you should only call me because I will not come here. So, our ministry has written a letter that we want to understand our Indian fisheries. Please come and do a reform for us. In 2012. In 2012, they have come with this report. Kindly read. Small report. This is everywhere. Before pitching into fisheries, kindly read this report. This is the basis of this is the root cause of all the mismatching that has happened throughout the laws and policies. If you read this, it will be done completely. So what they say, they comes with issues, opportunities and the transactions for sustainable development. They say that these are the opportunities you have, these are the issues you have and these are the reform you should do. In the year 2012. 2012 they start saying that the phase 1, they say that phase 1, let me recall the history also. 1965 is about mechanization. Phase 2, 65 to 86, it is about mechanized vessels, export and other things, because they are reading the policy. I am reading from the export. Okay. Then they are saying that phase 3, it was about the rapid growth of artisanal fleets, and they say that there is conservation is important, depletion of fish stocks, valuable fish stocks.
This is anything the same slide?
No, before slide. I am reading it.
No, this one.
This is so that in the phase 4 of postmodernism, which they say after tsunami only they say that it is postmodernism. They say that this depletion of fish stocks, increasing of fishery stocks and mounting investment needs in the modernization. These fellows only, I said, they had a strategic paper. You should also read their strategic papers. Poverty strategy reduction papers. In order to reduce poverty, they will bring up certain approach papers. And fisheries have a special approach papers. So there they said that these are all inefficient gears. Because the entire history is written by them. And now they are coming. And it is well written. The future scope of the fisheries is expansion of fishing in EEZ. What is EEZ? From where to where? 13 to 200 nautical miles. So the scope is set. The opportunity. What is the opportunity they are saying? Develop a more valuable asset base. Fisheries is a resource. Okay. Then higher sustainable economic care. So improving the distribution of the benefits. So these are the certain objectives that place it up. Then they say the opportunities and they comes with the constraints. First constraint, what will be the barrier? Your legislations and administration process you are so bad. That is the first barrier for them. Second barrier, center to state fund. Utilize the subsidies and welfare rather than reward for good fisheries management. The subsidies are used differently. They were using for welfare for the state, welfare for the fishers. It is wrong. It is not used for management. These are the barriers and the constraints which we have. Then they directly comes to the legal reforms. Okay. So other barriers, they are saying that number of fishing vessels, increase in number of fishing vessels. There is no defined fishing rights. There is no defined fishing rights. you should be very, yesterday's session is different and today's session is different because I will interlink with the 3, 4 sessions, like starting from monos to now, to interact with this only policy. So that is so. Please try to recall all these sections within you. So to define fishing rights, then they are talking about we should also define the property rights on the sea. Then they are saying that there is no legal national reform. Then they are saying that there is no national policy. These are the barriers they are saying. Now coming to the reform part of it. Leasing of the open seas. Lease of the EEZs. The other barrier, important barrier is that there is no fish stocks in 0 to 12 nautical miles. Yesterday Mano said that 97% of the fish stocks are in the territorial waters. But World Bank report said that territorial waters has nothing. Everything is gone. Statistics will lapse. Got it, na? Then, integrated zone management plan. What is that? In 2019, they are saying that the reform, integrated coastal management plan. What is that? Nothing but our CRC. And there is also an integrated coastal management plan which Anil was mentioning. That is also a World Bank project. Okay. See the recommendations they are giving. Then they are saying that there should be a policy, national policy, comprehensive national policy. Then they are saying that we should assess and other things. Then they are asking for a national fisheries development board. There should be a board, there should be a board. So their recommendations are very simple. There should be a policy, there should be a law, there should be an institution, and everything should happen in the EEZs. When Marianne talked about FRIs, Marine Regulation Act and other things, the territorial waters, state has only one power, which you all should understand. One power is that state can only give fishing license to catch fish. State can't do anything. They can only license the boat to catch fish. They can only make them to register the boats. Other thing that state has no power on the users, territorial waters. Then why the hell you gave me territorial water?
State na power undo. License idu kodukkan vendiyattu.
License kodukkan kodukku.
Kodukkanനുള്ള idu undo. State na power undo ennalladana.
State has the power to give the license, grant the license.
Fishing license.
Ada stateനുള്ള limitation എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ 12 nautical mile വരെയുള്ള limitation ഉള്ളൂ.
Limitations we have. But while fishing, the state has a power to register the boat. If it is under Marine Management that Act, Regulation Act, there will be MPDA now. Within MPDA you can register the boat, and you can give only fishing license. A man will get for driving license, so he can also get fishing license. And other than power state has, everything holds in the center. So with this person, so they ask for a policy. They ask for a comprehensive policy, and India doesn't have. So what does technology. So see that, so we should understand that World Bank is demanding something with the conditionality. You can't say that this report is bullshit. State can't do it. The state bank is come with the conditionality. You are wasting your resource. This much value you have. So what does it happens that it comes to there is series of policies. The first marine fisheries policies came in 2004, comprehensive, which also yesterday I told about that, how they define fishing in it. Then what happened? Suddenly, as I said, this report was like giving everything ready-made to the coming government 2014, because that government can't implement. I should also see the political arena. 2012, this report has come in to implement. There is a 2 years. Within that, let it be. So, yesterday he was saying about this national fisheries policy. What does the National Fisheries Policy say? Say me one thing. National Fisheries Policy talks about EEZs. And if you are going to come with the voluntary guidelines for small scale fishers who are applying more between 0 to 12 nautical miles, what is the value in it? Because I am fishing in 0 to 12 nautical miles and the policy is talking only between 13 to 200 nautical miles means you are not considering the small scale fishes at all. You got the point? So the future scope is only about 12 to 200 nautical miles, which is universally accepted that it is deep sea. Because you are going straight now. Once you go straight, it is like everybody has travelled in the lake or swimming pool. Swimming pool is the right. When we go, it goes slope and it goes down. Same prism there, but it is not equal everywhere as we know. So, this policy is applicable to marine. I am only talking about marine. Inland and all not considered, talking only marine. Then the Blue Revolution comes. Blue Revolution is a mission, it is not a policy. Modi just announced that it is a mission. Mission means it is like an operation they have to do. Blue Revolution. Then comes the Saravanan. So he comes with the different policies as he said. But this National Fisheries Policy came in 17th March 2020 draft. This is the first draft which came, but it doesn't come to the public arena. To bring it to the public arena, it's a very difficult process. Which Anilana, when Delhi Forum was also taking Anilana's effort to write back, enough effort to write back to get the draft itself a serious thing. Then entire lockdown came. Entire lockdown. The lockdown only they released the policy. See the date. First policy came. Be ready with the commands. We said that it is lockdown and we are ready to shoot our commands in April. But it is a complete lockdown. Then in January, 6th draft came. All are lockdown. All are in lockdown. Zoom calls. Experts. Zoom calls. Drafting a fisheries policy for the country. Imagine that. And this policy is very serious compared to this policy. Marine fisheries policy. This is only talks about marine. Then they had, I said that different. Dentists, scientists, everything. Like that, inland. They had an inland policy. Mariculture policy. Then they said, all are confusing. Let us put it into one, Avian. I will take points here, points there. Easy to read in one document. That's what this policy came. And it is a fisheries policy. Then comes the blue economic policy, it will be dealt tomorrow. What does this preamble say? Core. Core says that, see, I am not going policy line by line. Some work you should do. Say the greens of the policy. Kindly read now. My DNA, I have some problem. Whatever I read now, negative only will come. So you read and come with the different commands. Think of some work. So it comes to the prism of blue economic policy where they combine all these sectors. Each are different sectors. Tomorrow it will be done differently with just tomorrow. Not blue economic. I am not going into blue economic. So they say that it adopts the framework of blue economy integrating all these things. Next. So what I am facing is that this is not a need-based economic principle. What I need is a greed-based economic principle. Need and greed has a different connotation. Then it comes the production-oriented principles. And here they combine, they say that not only fishers. So when I said Neela Kranti at 2016, still that point of view, 2016, it was fisheries means the 9 coastal states. When they opened this, it is 33 states. Wherever water is there, all are fishes. Khatam ho gaya. Okay. can eat fish. Even Brahmins can eat fish. They can eat fish. Only cultured fish they will eat. That is the phenomenon of this policy also. Culture. If you cultured fish, seeing in the pond, grown, river fish. So there it has been established. It's not, I'm not particularly coining it from it, but why does this policy has been expanded a lot? Say the reason. There are two reasons. One is that this government has come in power of farmers. They have to give additional income to a farmer, which is the fisheries sector. Where if you have a pond, you put a pond, dig something, put some water, put some seed. Because a culture is an industry. Seed will come to you, feed will come to you, everything will come to you, and the buyer you can also consume. It's an industry. So it is all about well-being of fishers and fish farmers. Who are these category of fish farmers? To farm fish. Madan says he is there. For last 60 days, that is his course. To convert a fisher into a fish farmer. Nice course. So come down, the policy stage for this year. What is exactly happening? I am just putting statistics now. Consumption, see the global consumption. 50% marine fishery is captured, 50%. Their assumption is that it should be in culture. Culture is more and more in industry. Where are these fishes going? Where are these cultured fish, prawns are going? To these countries. Tons and values. Not a poverty person who have not seen. It's a good protein food now. We are dying in poverty. There are people, there are communities. Whether they can eat prawn, no. This is prawn for a different country. The demand is different. All are EBITDA data. Okay, next. This much million, everything in numbers. I hate seeing numbers in disasters. Numbers itself a disaster. Why? Our health minister, Corona, during the Corona, 6 months started from May, still December, before the election. He kept every day between 7,300 to 7,500 cases. Our health minister has kept the cases between 7,300 to 7,500. The numbers will be that only. They will play with numbers. Got my point now? Got it now? What I am saying? Then, if 1 crore people die also in India, they will calculate with the 100 crore population. It is just a percentage they will say. This much percentage will die. But their life is important for us. This way they play with statistics. So when they say, when they are valuing something, when it comes to the kg, I said yesterday, it is a different arena. Because economics will get worked now. You should also see their livelihoods. Statistics is there, economics is there. Everybody should live together. Proportion, colonial has given to us. They all should work together. Livelihood for them. So these are the what? This is the crux of the policy. Crux of our government initiatives. What it is? What it is? Investment, income, employment, export. Potential. Potential is. These are the 4 letters we should take. These are the mantras of the. I didn't say about Department of Fisheries saying. Don't mistake it. And see the background color now. Then today will be the background color will be very beautiful. So the statistics yesterday he was also quoting the same statistics. See the number, 93 million and lakhs how much now?
0.93 million is 9 lakhs.
9 lakhs. 9 lakhs means 9 coastal states. And also in Andamans also. Where does they calculate them now? Because imagine they will come with a beautiful marine census every 5 years. 2005, 2010 it came. The next one should be what? 2005 first census came. 2010 it came, 2015 now. Am I right? They didn't have money to build it up. That's what they said. So third marine census did come. Now what is the year?
2021.
Then fourth should come. Why are you not calculating these fellows? They are not included in your account. They simply said that we have no money to publish our census. These are all for data manipulations. Next. So the entire push is for EZ. Now EZ the futuroscopic is EZ. Then what? It is so deep. Then deep sea fishing comes. Not the small boats. Go deep. Go deep. Go deep means they will come with also their own deep sea vessels. And these deep sea vessels will be also, the important part, constructed will be constructed by them after Oki. This is after Oki. After the Oki disasters, they came and quote, saying that fishers have nothing to, they are not capable enough to create a craft to go to deep sea. Slowly they sink along. They are making in their own boatyards. Because I have an institute called Central Institute of Fisheries Technology. I have nautical engineers. I have been paying since 1960, but they have no work to do. And I also put in courses. I have also students. Their livelihood is in a mess. So kindly include us also. So now what happened? These fellows has come with the technology. But this is what deep sea fishing is. And it will be built in a Cochin shipyard where ships are built. And it will be given to you. When it comes to the fisher will be given training how to use that tool. Now, and then will train us and then will send it us. That boat is called deep sea fishing boat. That boat has solar, hence it is eco. That boat has bio toilet, hence it is Swachh Bharat. All the skills are converged in that boat itself. Finally, our GDP is also in that boat. So this is like, then comes the defining of fishing rights. What are the barriers? Defining of fishing rights. Now, a complete process. Defining fishing rights. Morning you have been heard a word about tenure. Tenure. What is tenure exactly? Say, what is a tenure exactly? Simple. What is tenure? I am a duration of time. See, I want to live in a house for a tenure. That means what? Whether I can own the... You can't own, no? Whether in my house itself I will be in a tenure? How come? How come? That's what tenure guideline says. That's his tenure rights. You got the point, now? This is defining the rights of the fishers. In your homeland, in my house, I should be a tenant. They will be giving me some years, then I should go for renewal, then I will get the rights. That is the tenure guidelines comes in. This is what FAO wants. Defining rights. World Bank said now. Then it is TRUPS. Terrestrial, territorial use fisher rights. This is about territorial waters, na? Some water spaces. This is the place I can use and take rights. So they are defining the properties, they are defining the sea, and then they are coming to the integration of seafood processing with the export sector, with the deep sea fishing industry. This is critical. If you have seen it in Kerala, a recent thing has come, that US and Kerala collaboration. They will come with boats. Our boats will be converted into prototype deep sea fishing boats. They will give the, come to the next slide. So after the corona economic reform, they come with a policy called Atma Bharat, economic reform. Very kind. Shooting also. What to do? Let's go faster. Be interactive. Let's go. Finished. So after corona, economic reform, it has come. They said mothership vessel. This is a mothership. These are baby vessels. They will go and feed him. They will catch and they will feed. Fish will not come shore and it will be exported by other ship. This ship is called modern ship vessels. These are the fishers. These are our designed Cochin shipyard vessels. Okay, as I said, there will be biopilots. This is not the Kerala government has brought. It is the plan of the central also. Imagine, these are already happening also in Atlantic and Pacific. Imagine, fish will not come shore. Then imagine the life of these people. Whether you will have been tin foods. This is how this mothership they can't put because fisher knows what is mothership. So they have used the word integration of seafood industry with the deep sea fishing vessel and the deep sea fishing industry. Go back now. See the words they went from. See the word with the seafood processing and export sector with the deep sea fishing industry. Brilliant fellows. This mothership is the word which can be easily attended by fishers. They know what is mothership. Because they are seeing foreign vessels in the seas, Chinese trawlers. Our friend Pakistan has recently leased out his entire EEZ to China. Entire EEZ. He has given a lease. So, this is how this mother vessels concept works out. We never got a great this thing and we have wrote very clearly that this concept will not work it out. Now, tuna cluster. Tuna has global market. Got it now? So then, as I said, vessels should be integrated. These are the policies. Registration of fishing gears, seaworthiness of fishing vessels. That is so much important. They are putting like cars now. Everything is in the land only. They are also putting ages for vessels. Catamaran, deep sea boat, deep sea vessel, 5 years, 20 years. The only person in this government has said that catamaran will go only for 25 years. It is not like that. Since old and catamarans are used till days, you can't value that. It's a different arena. It is not a created one. It's a car. So these things will be there. Then monitoring surveillance, where Navy has to be put in force. There will be enforcement wing to check us. We are getting biometric cards. All fishers are now with biometric cards. Ship will control them. The ship will control their fish boat. Where are they? What are they doing? Whether they are not fishing for Adani and going for Ambani, check them, catch them, bring them. So these are the implications are also being done. Then comes to the infrastructure projects. Infrastructure, what I am saying that the fishing harbors, fishing jetties, these will be in the term called build, own, operate. I can build, own and operate. Then build, own, operate and transfer. I can build a fishing harbor, I can operate, then I can give to the government or the society, the private sector. Build, own, operate and transfer. He can build, he can own, he can operate and then transfer. Transfer will be after 33 years. When the entire skeleton comes up, I will eat entire the flesh. Finally, when the skeleton comes, I will say 30 years old, so these are all privatizing the fishing harbors and landings, like ports. Yesterday was a glaring example of this. Policy also says the same. So then comes the inland fisheries. I want Debasis to be here, but Debasis left. Inland fisheries is an arena where the inland fishing has been done. There is no mention about, because it is also capture fisheries, because they capture. There is no mention of these people in this terms. It is a sad part of it, because the policy talks 12 to 200 nautical miles. It doesn't talk to 0 to 12 nautical miles and also the inland.
But isn't it the marine policy that you're talking about?
Fisheries policy. Fisheries policy. It's a national fisheries policy is in draft. Come back.
She works on waterways.
Inland. This is not considered at all as a capture fisheries. So their conservation is different. So then comes the arena of aquaculture, culturing fish, fresh water, wherever water, let me put fish and grow the fish.
You can.
So there is a fresh water, brackish water. Fresh water is river, brackish water, mariculture. Mariculture, they say that mariculture is because mariculture is additional.
Fresh water is only river or does it? Lake.
Whatever sweet water.
Okay.
Fresh water is sweet water. Everything. So imagine that, let me give the critique of each also. Let me go faster. Fresh water, like dam. The entire corona is because of a biological error, biotechnological error, which has come the entire globe. Are you sure that these are all reservoirs, are all, they are going to experiment, are all labs? Consider that they are labs. Whatever the CMFR is studying, scientists study, they will put their species and they will grow. And they will give only to the fishes. If some problem happens, fishes will come. What is, how it operates? I am a scientist. I cannot go and put the fish and grow in a dam. But through a policy, I can give to Sridhar, make him to grow. And if a problem comes, so the entire blame comes to the fisher, not the scientist. And he will take the entire blame. This is how these labs work out. And imagine, you are all drinking the water of a fish ship. All. And correct putting it up. Next time when he took water bottle only it came to me. So because I am not saying this because we are going to feed with a chemical feed. Madan was also saying about yesterday also saying about the movie that I gifted a country with the cow. They said that we will gift you the cow to develop your economy. But at last they will give only oxes to them. Same thing. I am saying is that because ox is not used to them, because milk and other things, only oxes, all are oxes. Same thing. All the prawns they grow are all made, genetically modified. They will not reproduce. If you put 10 prawns, it will come 10 prawns only. It will flat and flat. Who knows? Got the point now? How they are experimenting our lands, how they are experimenting our wetlands, how they are using our brackish waters, are all eco-sensitive areas. Then comes the mariculture. Yesterday as I said, mariculture I don't want to build more. Mariculture I said, the cage, the fisher go feed and come back. Because fishing is a risky occupation. And this mariculture, the policy says that lease out the territorial waters. Because there is no resource in territorial waters as per World Bank report. So they are saying that lease out this waste waters. Because there is no fish. Lease out it, put cages, ask them to grow. To lease out now, if I put a cage, Ishwan comes and put another 10 cages will be a problem. For that you have to prepare marine spatial plans. I will locate the plots and I will sell to anybody. It will be open-ended. Policy says that. Then seaweed farming. Seaweed farming is basically done in Gulf of Mannar. Seaweed farming is like a gel, seaweeds. It will be a raft. The raft will cost only 60 to 70 rupees. Thread, and if you put into the sea, they will give the sand. It will absorb the seawater and it will grow. It will bulge. You have been seeing that small jelly-like boats selling in the roadside job. If you put water, it will become bulge. Same principle. Nobody knows what it is. It is given by one company called Pepsi. It is called Publc. See, it is called Publc. They use it for an increment in Pepsi.
What is your bubble?
Gel bubble road like one. தண்ணி ஊத்துறதுல புஷ்ஷு வருதுல அதான் இது வரும் and அதே மாதிரி தான் that is the way the seaweed grows. They call the seaweed as Publc. It is a creature. It is a lab made. So imagine what happened in Rameshwaram is that they said that we are going to empower self-help groups, fisherwomen. They go to a village and take a self-help group and give to them. One self-help group, one person will have 3 rafts. How many will be in a self-help group? 10. Then how many rafts will be there? Weak in maths, be faster. 10 persons, each person 5 craft. 3, 30. So yeah, one. There are 15 groups like that. How many crafts? 15
groups,
750. There are 15 villages like this. Then 11,000. Let us keep as 11,000. It happens in a 10-kilometer stretch. And they say that it is the empowerment of fishes. It is not an industry scheme. We are not doing it. I have given only 5 cages, 5 rafts. What happened when these rafts are there? See, the sunlight will not enter the sea. Sea will become dead sea. It will smell like anything. Or sea will become dead. That's all. And this will finally taken by a community. A vendor will come from the community, he will take the weight of it and they will take and go. Money will be given to the self-help. Now, through these schemes, now policy says that fish farmers. So in Rameshwaram, there are inland, there are farmers. So there will be self-help groups. They will take a fisherwoman, make them train. Fisherwoman will put everything in the sea. This farmer woman will sit and tie and give to her. He goes to the sea, put the raft, everything, see what he will do, and he will get a salary. This is also a thing. But the space is given to her. Like that, now farmers also coming into the sea. Then imagine the groups now with 5 acres. So these are all the marine species. Now we need a marine species plan. Coastal management plan for the land. Marine species plan is for the territorial groups. Got it?
Actually, it's come directly for like the one number they are getting identity and the man number getting identity. Actually, other than the fisher property, actually who is involved in fishing. Other than other community people are getting the identity.
Identity card. Because he is talking about fishing identity card issue. That is a different arena. He is saying that apart from fishers also, farmers also getting fisher identity cards. Because they might be involved. They are saying that they are got under the scheme. They might be a court or they will be involved in some sea practices. It's a different arena. Because in he said Rameshwaram, interesting thing is that the temple priest, the temple priest, 6 people are having fisher identity card. Who doesn't eat fish? The Ramanapuram temple priest, 6 of them have fisher identity card. Why this identity card? Because small scale, the welfare schemes which that he is saying, the World Bank is saying, the state government is giving more welfare schemes. For the ban period, they will get at least 10,000 rupees. Savings come, relief scheme. So yearly you will get a 10,000 rupees. For this 10,000 rupees, they are doing this now. Imagine this now. I had an example of this. The farmer, you will have a fisher identity card, you will have a farmer identity card. Got it? He will have both schemes. In Sundarbans, he will have fisher identity card. He will have, hence he is a tribal, he will have a tribal identity card. Hence he is unorganized, he will have an unorganized identity card. Because all institutions need them. It is not their fault. It is show how the money has been rooted. They will not identify the people. There is no screening. Screening in the sense, I will say one example of this ID card. 7 people has to sign that form. Starting from Tahsildar to police and 1 fisher society member. The last will be the fisheries director will sign. First 4 are policeman, police inspector and all 4. A person like a farmer is very poor. He goes, clears everything with 2,000 rupees. He comes to the fisherman. He's an old person. I am still saying, intervening is an old person, 80 years. He said that you are not a fisher. I will not sign. Okay. But 4 people are signed, are all government officials. 5th person, 5 people are signed, they are all government officials. 6th person is the fisherman who says that I will not sign because you are not coming under my cooperative. And it is an identity crime. 7th person is a fisheries AD who has to sign. If he didn't sign, AD will call him first. What are you doing? Sign. If he didn't sign, he will be booked also because police and all are process of bureaucracy. What happens if he says that I know? The next day he will come to the entire family and saying that this is my family situation. If this identity card is not for me, I can't enter into fishing as a fish worker. Kindly do. This is how the system works. Clear now? Then ornamental fishing. Ornamental fish farming is that ornamental fishes. We are also trying in home ornamental fishes. Mali, which will have in tanks, na? That is the booming thing. Asia's biggest ornamental hub is Chennai, Colombo. Nobody knows that. From here only all countries it goes. Ornamental fishes. Then inland saline soils. These are all in Punjab. Where there is, due to salinity, where there is no paddy lands, they will make it into a paddy. Instead of a paddy, they will put a shrimp as a crop and grow. This is what culture says. Next one. So then they comes to the environment and climate change. They talks about climate change. They talks about ecological integrity. All go and dream. Ecosystems, regulatory fish meal industries, and then comes the blue economy. There comes the blue economy with marine spatial planning. This is what marine spatial planning is. Everybody will be inside. That's what Jason was asking, that why I should share my place. What is tenure rights? Why I should share my home? All are stakeholders. All are stakeholders. They have a stake and they have a claim. They have a user right because they are using it. Whether it is rights as per the human rights principle. Human rights guidelines talks about individual rights and we talks about collective rights. Don't confuse. I am confusing for the past 3 years. Individual human rights are individual rights. We are talking about collective rights. It's a different arena. I can't love in a collective.
Individual rights is one, but we are all the third generation rights is a collective rights.
Collective rights. In a collective rights,
Human rights
third generation rights comes as women, children as a group, person with disability, all are groups collective rights. It doesn't give us a collective common rights. It gives a collective common rights to individuals. indigenous groups, single. Other convention talks women groups, vulnerable groups. Community property rights is not within this human rights.
This also on other ways of
but it is not there. It is not being implemented now. So these are the places we have to locate the rights. Marine spatial planning, tomorrow also we will talk about the blue economic policy. We were struggling with this policy, that's what you were saying. Yesterday Anand was saying that 2 years we were rotating with this blue economic policy, and when all our tribunals open, they finally come with the policy. We took here and there, where is the blue economy, let's locate. Finally they come with the blue economic policy. So let's discuss tomorrow. And regarding this climate change and disasters, as I said, disasters now is happening like every day. Every day. Who can claim disaster? In accident, who can claim? One day, bike has been accident. I should claim compensation. What is first necessary? I should own that vehicle. Disasters are compensation principle works when we own it. Here it is not being owned. Rather they say that this is disaster zone, 500 meter. Go beyond 500 meter, I will do all things for it. You got the point? And see, like today in Arabian Sea, usually Bay of Bengal is very arrogant sea. It blows often. Arabian Sea is a calm sea. I didn't say. Colonial rulers said this. Because it is because of the trade, they calculate the currents and they come. I think Paddington, there is law of sea, law of storms. Read that. He is just an economist. Law of storms. He said the same. Here the problem is that now Arabian Sea is getting more and more storms. They say that after 114 years, this cyclone has hit Gujarat. 109 years, this 77 years, this cyclone has hit Maharashtra. Have you heard these words? That means, should see in the other angle. 3 generations are not used to these disasters. Then 3 generations, that boat is not used for disasters. The craft, the gear. Okay, they said that we have not seen in our life. We have not seen in the life. Understand the seriousness of disasters, na? And when disaster comes, when a disaster hits you, after 10 days you should not go, before 10 days you should not go. If you calculate that it will be more than 105 days it is coming. Then holidays, Christmas, Bogi, Eid, all, calculate everything. 200 days to go. 100 days only fishing will happen. Within that, if something happens also, it's less. So the number of days will be reduced. Climate change. Don't think more about climate change. Carbon print, this and that. In fisheries, it will change the ocean and the climate current. That means he doesn't know, because this is the traditional knowledge. He doesn't know anything. We don't know. He can't calculate. To impact a lot, to make him to capitalize more, buy more nets. Fishes will not come near shore. Got it now? Disasters. Disasters is a different arena. And disaster, every disaster there is a capitalism. The same World Bank will come after disaster. Say example of tsunami. Tsunami hit 3 coasts of 3 districts, Nagapattinam, Kanyakumari, then Chennai. Kadalur, 4 districts. Highly impacted is more than 5 districts, you can calculate. 5 districts. But the World Bank project did for 13 districts. Entire coastal districts. And also Kerala coast. Kerala coast is Alapi and 2 or 3 districts. Villages. Why the hell the entire this thing you are working? All are disaster. It will written as emergency disaster risk reduction project. Hudud disaster risk reduction project. Piling disaster risk reduction project. What risk are you? Reconstruction, not risk reduction. Reconstruction project. You are reconfiguring the coast. You are saying that 500 meters is, this act has come. This CRZ says 500 meters. This is because of disasters. Beyond 500 meters you go. I lost everything in disasters. Huh? I lost everything in disasters. If you want to become a tsunami beneficiary, you have to accept go beyond 500 meters. Where will be the sea? As I said, I will take an example of. Then I'm weak in mathematics, but kindly calculate 1,800 crores World Bank. Now, 1,800 crores. 1,000 crores ADB. Then Japan fund, this fund, that fund. Keep it as an 100 crores, 100 to 250 crores. Leave all the civil societies and NGOs pulling money. Calculate this amount, 1,800 plus 1,000 plus 1,200, how much? Divide by 13? 30 districts.
30 divided by 30.
You calculate these crores now.
230. 231.
3,000 crores divided by 30. 3,000 crores.
231.
231 for one district. One district. How many villages Thoothukudi? There are only 21 villages, coastal villages. Now calculate. This what coastal village now? Calculate. Each village how much you should get?
11 crores.
11 crores you should get now. How will be the village with 11 crores? See the village development. I am saying the calculation with the government this thing. NGOs also built houses. Calculate with that how much money has been put. After that, no civil society is coming into Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Saying that we are given enough, it's enough only. Say that in tsunami we got only 2 blankets. You are talking about 11 crores. So this out this thing. Then I will say this disaster example in God's own country. God's own country. They said that ADB will be building sea walls in the entire coast.
Yes.
That is ADB, Asian Development Bank of Fund, to stop the waves, to protect the land. Got it now? Then they built under cyclone risk reduction project. They built cyclone shelters in 200 meters away from the coast through World Bank. That is for to reduce the risk. If the cyclone comes, they will put them back. Okay. Then through tsunami they got reconstruction project. They constructed all houses because people are under risk. Okay. People are under risk. Cyclone comes, you can just put them, lift them and put in the cyclone shelter. You are already wall is there. Huh? Why all these projects? Let me say in Tamil Nadu, several kredita. Let me put in several kredita. Yara kapathirukku, meenavara kapathirukku. அப்புறம் சைக்ளோன் ஷெல்டர் கட்டிட்ட எதுக்கு புயல் வந்தால் அவனை கொண்டு போய் வச்சிருவாங்க. அது ஒரு பேங்க். திரும்ப ரீகன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ப்ராஜெக்ட் சொல்லி ஒன்று அவ்வளோ பெரிய ரியல் என்ன சொல்ல விரும்புகிறேன். இந்த லேண்ட் யாரும் இவங்க இருக்க போகிறது இல்லை. ஏன்னா ரீகன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ப்ராஜெக்ட் வெளியே கொண்டு போயிருக்கோம். சைக்ளோன் ஷெல்டர் யார் கட்டி வைக்கிறேன். ஸோ திஸ் சேம் இங்கிலீஷ்னா
So first they built a wall
through
around the coast to protect the fisher folk land. And protect the land also. And then because cyclones are coming, they build a cyclone center. So when cyclone comes, all of the fisher folk can be shifted to the center. But then to reconstruct all of this itself, they throw the fishermen out. So who are you building a cyclone center for?
It is in the budget. Each family will get certain amount wherever sea erosion is happening. Am I right? Why? Where does this money goes? But the land, for whom the land is for our tourist research.
Every year 26 crores rupees the government is spending to construct the sea wall. Why that amount to given the people to reconstruction?
So, today morning, Anna was saying this, Vijay Anna. Government also saying the same. we are going to define these fisheries at 2020. They are in 2020 year. The policy, they are saying that we are in the define the terms of small scale fisheries, legally follow the international guidelines and consultations. When they are saying in 2021. So they will come with a good definition, we hope so. And how will be the definition, we can also imagine. So before that, you all come with your hats. Nah? Morning when monkey story came, you all have the mat. So all bring with that hats. Let us also draft and help them, because they are trying hard to do this. Then comes the crop insurance. Like crop insurance, they are talking about insurance to the fisher assets. They are going to insurance boats and nets. That is a good thing inside the policy, but how does it going to work? Because when you say assets, it is more owner based, not the worker based. That's a different idea. So see these quotes. Now I like these quotes very much. The only thing I like in this policy is these quotes. It is part with agriculture so that we can enjoy the benefits of reducing the tariffs and tax. Aquaculture is like agriculture, so primary activity is engaged in food farming. Everything, now we are also saying the same. Baba, everything is agriculture based, ella culture based. Please leave us alone. Fisheries is different. They are saying, what is the logic behind this? Number, next. Got the point now? These are the quotes. Then comes what? Policy has come, rights has been defined, they defined everything. Who are these people? These are the legal reforms World Bank is talking. 1, 2, 3 has done in the policy. Then comes the comprehensive legislation. I said that there will be policy, there will be a body for power. So this is the management bill. It is also National Marine Regulation and Management Bill. Regulation and management together. Eradication and alleviation together. So then they say that evidence that marine aquaculture is culture based. One is sea based and other one is land based. Inland. Both are different. So I need a different legislation. It's also a beauty thing. They says everything because it is part of agriculture. Part of agriculture. It's not a fishery related policy. They says everything. Next. Then how can you integrate both now? If you are saying the logic is different, then your policy talks about integration. The logic goes wrong. Then yesterday we see these institutions now. So what these guys have said, they said that they need a comprehensive unique institution is needed. They have said in their reform. So what they are trying to build is that they want to build a ministry called Ministry of Fisheries and Maritime Affairs. So they said in the reforms in the World Bank policy, so they are putting this. And these are the departments that they are getting funds now. Now they have clubbed everything together and put as a director for this. Putting salary in different accounts is very difficult. Putting in one account is so easy. Next.
സിഗ്നറ്റിൽ ഒരു തമാശയുണ്ട് കേട്ടോ. സിഗ്നറ്റിൽ ഒരു വർഷം ഒരു 10 കുട്ടികളെ എടുക്കത്തുള്ളൂ, അഡ്മിഷൻ കൊടുക്കത്തുള്ളൂ. ആ 10 കുട്ടികളും അവിടുത്തെ സിഗ്നറ്റിൽ പഠിക്കുന്ന അവരുടെ റിലേറ്റീവ്സ് ആയിരുന്നു. കാരണം ഞാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 വർഷമായിട്ടും അവിടെ നിന്ന് നമ്മൾ എത്രത്തോളം 3-4 കുട്ടികൾ നമ്മൾ അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നു. എന്നിട്ട് ഇവരുടെ നമ്മൾ ഈ എടുത്ത കുട്ടികളുടെ റിലേഷൻ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ അവിടുത്തെ ആരെങ്കിലുമായിട്ട് അവർ ലിങ്ക് ചെയ്തതാണ്.
So there is signet, it's a distribution. There are only 10 seats over there. So every time these 10 seats are occupied by either of the relatives of the people working in Signet. No one else is around. Since the last 3 years they are trying.
സംഭവിക്കുന്നത് കാരണം ഇവർ തന്നെ ഈ ഫീൽഡിൽ തന്നെ പോവുകയാണ്.
So finally, Nabi. So the arena is between 500 meters. As I said, imagine the same thing. Inside the land there is a marine spatial planning. Inside the sea there is a marine spatial planning. Here there is a management plan. Here World Bank fund. Here World Bank fund. ADB fund. This line is a sea wall. It is an ADB fund. This line may be a road. there is a road that will also comes under Sagarmala, Adani may sponsor it. Na, Bharatmala, how will be there? The same thing if it happens to a farmer, whether it will happen. Any community it is happening, land-based community. Nobody can go and check, you can't do it. He said CRZ comes from an act called Environmental Protection Act. The class which they have mentioned, section 3 or something, it will be in the preamble. It is that where to locate industries, how to keep industries and where to keep the industries. That's what the class says. That's what the law says. Where to keep the industry. Everything is different. So legally also the law is little, because the law, the section is that where to keep an industry. So with this plurality, with this legalism, if a disaster happens, how to claim, where is the right, how to do, it's a real Herculean task. No books or no act will not say this. The past 4 days which we have learned, the economics you will learn, fisheries identity you will learn, fisheries sociology you will learn, conservation you will learn. Books are different. These are realities. Go back to the field, see with this eye. Next. So, you know this guy. So, he says that நிறுவப்பட்ட சட்டங்கள் எதிராக தங்களின் அடக்குமுறை சக்திகள் நிலைநாட்டிக் கொண்டு போவது அமைதி என்பது ஏற்கனவே says that if acts and policies, he says the act, if the institutionalized acts are against the people, there will be no peace, and I can't be so calm also. What the point? Because acts is not for the people. Satta enakada irukkum. Act should protect me. Should not protect. Should not protect Adani or Ambani. You can't fix the rights in the paper. Rights are different. Legal acts are not. Legal acts are plans. It's a different annotation. Everybody in the research say me that I am so biased. Be neutral. But see this quote. You are neutral in this situation. This is a rat. Where are you? So there cannot be a negotiation on how to roll out, because this is a situation really that is happening in fisheries. Next, final. Thank you so much. Tomorrow is this. Our Baba World Bank has come with this, says that Chankan millions. Today, still today, we have seen about the sea. Now it is about entirely under one umbrella. As I said, one accord. So they say that economic justice of fisheries reforms. Okay, World Bank and FAO is there. This is what our economic policy says. This is what blue economy is. Tomorrow, Akka will take it. Thank you so much.
Only one point, what he left, just 1-2 minutes. He was talking about all the things, licensing, everything. He left only one thing, that is, what is it? The total allowable catch, what Manas was saying, and the individual transferable quota. That he was saying about everything, but there is going to be a quota system, not only license. There will be a quota for every
transferable quota, individual
transferable quota given to assigned to each fishing craft.
That is called maximum sustainable yield.
So this quota, when it was taught in 1997, they were talking in the WFOP meeting. Then I was not able to imagine, can it come to India? But it is a reality, it is going to come to India. Only one thing what you need is harbors to land the fish, the crabs. That is constructed everywhere. So there will be no beach landing. One is over. When it lands, there will be all security systems to measure your fish, what is being landed. what you can catch, what you are allowed to catch only you should bring. Otherwise you should throw it in the circle. So otherwise you will be fined. So this is a system which is going to come, it will come soon. It's not imagination. I saw in one of the countries, then I was not able to see the linkage, how it can come to India, how it is coming. So these are all in the policies, which many countries are fighting, this ITQ, individual transferable quota. And from 1997, even West is fighting, Ireland is fighting, every country is fighting because Africa is fighting, but it is going to, that's a great push for it, that's the thing.
How are they going to enforce this quota?
That's what I told you, see, they will be saying, giving each vessel one quota.
Right.
You can transfer it, you can sell it. The selling will be done only to the big ship. They will not be able to sell it here. So the ship which is getting the fish from the crabs. So that is what you are saying, deep sea, one mothership will be there. You are showing one picture. That is going to become a reality. So now
deep sea boats are 1 and 2 crores. He will be allotted with the boat and he allotted with the quota.
You can buy, because now everything is GPS mapping, everything, you have the weighing machine within the boats. So what you catch, you should weigh and bring it back to the shore.
Sure.
But what happens if you don't meet the quota?
Huh?
What happens if you don't meet the quota?
It is up to you.
After
If you know more,
you cannot bring more, but you can bring less.
less.
Okay,
Yeah.
like that.
Yes.
Okay.